Welcome to the Fall 2020 Student Innovation Project Showcase at the University of Advancing Technology. I'm Professor Valenzuela, and first I'd like to congratulate all of the students who will be presenting their innovative projects. Well done. Thank you for being here. Amongst all the challenges, you have rose to the occasion, and we're going to celebrate your projects today. Each semester, our UAT students showcase a tech-based product or service relative to their program that includes artificial intelligence, advancing computer science, advertising art, digital media, digital video, game design, game art, game programming, cyber, and robotics. So I'm excited to have each one of you as part of today's momentous event. Thank you to everyone who facilitated and supported our students, to President Pastillo, to Dr. Bowman, our entire UAT staff, program chairs, faculty, and our SMEs, our subject matter experts who guided each student on their journey. Dr. Kathleen Dunley, who runs our online SIP program, and I teach our on-ground SIP students. Thank you to the parents, to the friends and guests who are joining us this morning, and a special thanks to Professor Derek Clark for administrating Zoom for us today. So each presentation will follow a short Q&A from faculty only in order to ensure we stick to today's agenda. We welcome questions from the audience via the chat feature located at the bottom of your screen. When you click on that, it'll pop up on the right. There will be time allocated for short breaks and lunch since we have a fun-packed day. After we conclude the showcase, our UAT team will vote on best of show and most market ready. However, the audience will have the opportunity to vote for Viewer's Choice Award via Socrative.com. We'll be sharing how you can vote throughout the process, and also in the chat feature, we'll continuously update that information as well. So there you see it for Viewer's Choice Award. And so we highly recommend that you stick around for all the students to present so that way you can vote for your choice. So again, thank you for being here. And we'll get started with our first presenter. All righty, so first we're going to start with robotics and embedded systems and digital maker and fabrication. So first we have Daniel Diaz Bayona.
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Diaz and this is my project, Jugibot. I hope you guys like it.
All right, let's see what's going on.
Okay. Still green.
Still green. All right, let's see what else is going on.
I could see it on my end.
I can see it just fine.
Yep.
Yeah, Zoom and Teams both have been having issues with sharing. So, okay, so we got some people. Is it all green or just a green tint?
Green tint.
On my end, it's a green tint.
Whole lot of green.
Y'all need to do your updates.
Is that green?
It's green.
Yes, that's all green.
Yes.
You can see the writing on it on my end.
It wasn't green at all for me.
Yeah,
it's totally normal to me.
It varies from person to person. Teams has been doing the same thing. Okay, let's see.
Well, I guess I get to go home. No? Okay, bad joke.
All right, we'll turn a couple settings off here and see if that makes a difference. All right, now how does it look?
Good.
Good.
Looks great.
All right, let's rock and roll then.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Diaz, and this is my project, Jugibot. I hope you guys like it. My technical background, I'm the major in robotics and embedded systems here at UAT. I did an associate's in Bucks Community College in Pennsylvania on technology, and I went to Penn State for nanotechnology, which gave me the job Intel to work as a robotics repair and chip manufacturing. I do coding like C++, Python, and Java, 3D printing design, and printing, Arduino programming, and I know about innovation designing. But why Jugibot? Jugibot, this name and this project comes from really the two main things that I love, which is toys and robots. So jugue comes from the Spanish words juguete, which translate to toy, and the bot part comes from the robot word in English, just for the last part. So I put two things together, my childhood and adulthood, into one word to create this project that I really like. But why create something like this? Well, this is the main reason. These pictures, these dogs, this mess. I wanted to create a robot that helps out cleaning, picking up the dog toys without me having to do that, or me doing it by just sitting on my bed. So this is the main reason of why Jukibot is. My project description is Jukibot is created with specific features that includes the ability to be mobile without the use of a remote controller, but rather in an offline mode, allowing the user to control the car through an app. And some additional feature is to control the car via Wi-Fi. It has a camera for location in the house, so you can see it into the app. And the gripper, it actually has these two paws that grip the toys. Basically, that's the project description, and that's the main thing on my project. My innovation claim is a robotic car that allows you to pick up small toys or objects from the ground and put them into correct location or the designated spot for your home. This will allow you to pick up toys from the ground while you get to relax on your bed or sofa. This is also a fun way to keep everything organized with Jukibot. It's awesome. Now, I want to guys show you the manufacturing video. Hope you guys enjoy this. Now I want to show you guys the video of the demonstration of the robot actually working. That's it. I hope you really guys like my video. This is my project Juba. This is the final part. There's a lot of things to add, a lot of things that went good and went wrong. And just please ask me all this on the Q&A. And thanks for watching.
Thank you, Daniel. Well done. It's great to see the progress of your prototype. Any questions for Daniel? Professor Prater?
Well, first of all, it looks very finished, which is very cool. It looks
Thank you.
fantastic. Absolutely. My question is, do you have any sensors on it? Is there any inputs that you have? And also, what kind of processor are you using for it?
What you mean process?
Like, or what kind of processor? What kind of chip is on it?
It has two different ones. It has an Arduino Mega
Okay.
and an Arduino Uno. I did try to put everything into the Arduino Mega to control everything at the same time. I basically wasn't able. So the Arduino Uno is controlling the arm with 4 different servo motors, and the Arduino Mega is controlling the robotic car, and it has the Wi-Fi sensor and a Bluetooth sensor in case the Bluetooth didn't work. The car is fully autonomous. It drives by itself in the house without crashing, but it does not do Wi-Fi with the arm. So the car will move automatically. That was the second video where it was just going around the house without crashing. With the first video was the car, me controlling it via Bluetooth, since the arm has a Bluetooth sensor and the car has another Bluetooth sensor. And also it has the camera to see where you are in case you're not in the room basically. And it has the ultrasonic sensor for crashing basically.
Cool, perfect. So it has an ultrasonic sensor and it has a camera as the
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you. It looks great.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Daniel?
I got one. Good job, Daniel. I really like it. It looks really cute and
Thank you.
really functional. I just got a question on what is the reach of the arm, the robotic arm?
So that's another problem that I came with. I did the 3D printing and I started doing the designs for the arm. And when I did it, it looks huge. When I put it on the robot, since I changed the body to a 3D printed body because I didn't want to have all the wiring, nobody seeing it, just everything put together. When it was reaching to the ground, it didn't reach the ground. So that's why when I picked up the toy, I had to put it in a box because the gripper will pick up the toy. I mean, not really heavy objects, but it will pick them up. But when it was reaching, it didn't reach the ground. And I didn't realize that when I did the 3D printed box for the robot, and it came up to me, and I wasn't able to fix it due to some medical reasons being out for so long. But that was one of the problems. But I was happy that I was able to pick up things. Even I had to put them a little higher, but the gripper works perfectly fine. But the reach, I think I was probably 1.5 inches off the ground, basically.
Okay. Yeah, to be honest, I didn't actually notice that. So,
Yeah, yeah.
I was just curious what the length of that arm was, but yeah, it's still a really good job. But as I mentioned, I didn't even notice that it didn't reach the ground. Okay, but awesome job and really nice
Thank you.
project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, Daniel. I do have a very important question about the target market, which is your dog. How did he react to the little robot in the house?
At first, they were trying to follow the robot, and on the first try, my big dog actually stepped on it. So I had to rewire a lot and do a lot of soldering. But that was because of the lights. So when I put the actual um, wires inside the box, they didn't see any lights. And I did a small, I don't know if in the pictures you guys can see, I did a head, a 3D printed head and a 3D printed tail. So I showed them that. And then after that, they was just following them, or even when he was running around the house just by itself, they didn't care anymore. They just got used to and everything.
So they welcomed Jugobot to the pack.
Yeah, basically. That's my third pet, basically.
Well, good job, Daniel. Thank you so much. Well done. We'll go
Thank
ahead
you.
and move along with our next presenter, who is Garen Kohler, and he is a double major robotics and digital maker and fabrication.
My project is AME, short for Astute Medical Environment. I am Garen Kohler, a double major in robotics and embedded systems along with digital maker and fabrication. To begin with, here's some background for my project. When I was younger, I had a condition which led to frequent seizures. Due to that, I was in the hospital a lot. It eventually got to the point where a cardiac loop recorder was inserted into my chest to collect my heart rate data. This was when I realized two things. First, I want to be able to help people using my tech experience. Second, I want to upgrade the technology in hospitals, bringing them up to speed with current tech. The idea for AME started when I was working on a project called the Redefined Smart House. The goal of this project was to update the engineering and maker spaces at UAT, equipping them with modern Internet of Things technology. It was this idea, upgrading older systems and connecting them to the Internet of Things, which inspired me to create AME. The goal of AME is to create updated versions of medical devices, which are able to make use of the Internet of Things. By giving them this functionality, it will allow doctors to activate devices and access the device's data from an easy-to-use interface. My innovation claim is creating an IoT ecosystem for the medical industry. This is the device I created to demonstrate my SIP. I started by designing a schematic and then eventually a PCB. I then modeled and 3D printed a housing to help the sensor get more accurate readings. The device is a pulse oximeter and is being used to measure heart rate. The pulse oximeter is able to send data using the onboard microcontroller to a server, which then saves the reading and relays the data to a user interface. This user interface is only accessible on the local network by staff who have proper credentials. The device to server communication makes use of the IoT.io library made by Dylan Crockett, which is designed to make Internet of Things development faster and simpler. The center image is that of a user interface used while developing the pulse oximeter. The data in the image on the left makes its way from the pulse oximeter to the user interface, where the values are then displayed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Garen. Any questions for Garen?
I can go.
Professor Prater?
Real quick, what does your device measure again? Is it just heart rate?
Yeah, so it's just using heart rate right now. It can measure the oxygen content in your blood, but I didn't do that for just time restraint. And then it also measures if the finger is actually on the device too.
Okay, cool. Because if it's not measuring oxygen, then it's not a pulse oxygen.
Yeah, it's just a heart rate monitor right now.
Yeah.
Once I add the other portion.
So I wouldn't call it a pulse oximeter unless it's doing that function. I would call it a heart rate monitor. But the housing looks fantastic. How does it detect that a finger is in the correct location?
It has a little IR sensor. So once you put it over the little hole in the silicone I made, then it detects if a finger is in there or not.
Good deal. Good deal. Looks good.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Garen?
I got a quick one. Hey, Garen, good job on that. It looks really good. And I can see the potential for that in the future. So really good job. Quick question for you. So you're collecting all that data. Is that being published anywhere? Do you put that in an app, or do you provide alerts? I'm just wondering, what's your goal with the data that you're collecting?
So right now it just goes to a CSV file. So just an Excel spreadsheet, basically.
Okay, very cool. Good job, and good luck with extending the functionality.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Garen? Okay, Garen, well done. And Garen, I want to point out that it's great that you took a challenging time in your life to utilize technology to help yourself and other people. So that's very admirable, and good luck with your progress moving forward.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Also, real quick, Taylor has a question too in the chat. I don't know if you want me to read it.
So is the pulse oxy reader affected by nail polish in certain colors? So I don't think so. I didn't have time to do a lot of testing on it just for time constraint. But it goes off the bottom of your finger, so I don't think fingernail polish should have a big effect on it.
Thank you, Garen. Thank you, Professor Prater. Thank you, Professor Ward. All righty, Garen, I appreciate your time. That concludes the students presenting for robotics and embedded systems and digital maker and fabrication. Now we'll move on to digital marketing, advertising art, digital media, which also includes business technology. We'll go ahead and start with Aubrey Dahl, who is an advertising art major.
Hello, my name is Aubrey Dahl. I'm an advertising art major at UAT, and my student innovation project is Reach My Rainbow, Learning About Color. Earlier this year, I was hired to host a painting-themed birthday party for an 8-year-old girl and her friends. I prepared canvases with pictures for them to paint. I asked them questions about the colors they were using and the colors they were mixing. There were certain aspects of the colors that they didn't know, but were able to understand when I explained it to them. It made me realize that they were able to understand the material so quickly, so it made me wonder why they weren't taught this material in the first place. Kids are already very receptive to art, especially color, and it made me realize why they weren't being taught to more of an extent. Being very visual learners, learning about art and color in such a way would really help them, especially when many children lose their love for art after a while. After doing more research, I realized how many educational games are out there for math, science, learning, and even foreign language, but nothing went to the extent that I wanted them to learn for art and color. That's why I developed Reach My Rainbow, Learning About Color. Reach My Rainbow is an educational kids game geared to elementary school students to teach color and color theory. The intent is that it would be used in elementary school classes to teach art and color. There are 10 levels to Reach My Rainbow, with each different aspect of art that would be applied to the coloring pages at the end. The structure goes lesson, activity, and reward coloring page, using what they have just learned to color their own picture. The visuals for the game are meant to be simple, yet cute and appealing to the eye. Here are the current levels set for Reach My Rainbow. You can see that level 1 is about primary colors, and level 2 is about secondary and mixing colors. By level 4, they learn to add value to a color. Levels 5, 6, 7, and 8 can help them to create color schemes and add more variety to their colors. Level 9, they'll have the freedom to create a color palette from the colors that they've learned to create. Level 10 is pure freedom, and they can create whatever they want with everything that they've learned. Here is the current state and build of Reach My Rainbow, Learning About Color, in which you can see how lessons, activities, and coloring pages are used to teach color and color theory to elementary school students.
Our first lesson is about primary colors. Primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. These colors can be mixed to make up all other colors you see. Red is the color of objects like apples, ladybugs, and roses. Yellow is the color of objects like bananas, ducks, and the sun. Blue is the color of the ocean, whales, and blueberries. Yes, the apple is red. Right, the duck is yellow. Uh-oh, that's not right. Try again. Yes, the ladybug is red. Right, the banana is yellow. Correct, the berry is blue. Right, the sun is yellow. Uh-oh, that's not right. Try again. Yes, the rose is red. Correct, the whale is blue. Uh-oh, that's not right. Try again.
Great job, Aubrey. Very nice. There's a question in the chat feature regarding the coloring choice page. What if somebody chooses the color before the talking is done? Does the speech overlap?
Unfortunately, it does right now, but we're still working on it.
Wonderful. And it's great, Aubrey, that you are introducing and emphasizing the arts in STEAM. We can't have visually appealing applications without the understanding of something as basic as color theory. So well done on that. And I do have a question about how you intend to test this application. Is it going to be with a school or just an organization or a program? What are your thoughts on that?
The original goal is to get a test group from in my local elementary school to get about 10 kids to test it, because currently I've had about 5 test it now, and all of them have said that they like it, and only one has said that she wants animations on it now. But overall, they've said, from the feedback I've got from the kids, they said that they could probably see them playing this just on its own, not even just at school. So the goal of it being fun and educational is still there.
Wonderful. I mean, it does have, the visual, the auditory, the kinesthetic, short of being able to taste it and touch it, but it's great that you're, stimulating the senses with such a young age group. All right. Any other questions for Aubrey?
Well, yes, of course. I'm getting in. All right. So Aubrey, first, fantastic job. I'm so proud of you as far as how far you've taken this project when you initially talked about it. So hats off to you for there. My question, even though I already kind of know the answer to it, is what do you see for the future iterations of this project as you keep, enhancing it and bringing it down the line?
Honestly, the focus would be on having it be an educational tool. So since this is a base level elementary, to make sure that every subject is taught at what a kid could understand. As it is, I'd want to have it finished, finalized, and given the license to elementary schools. But going forward, if I maybe make a middle school, high school version, make things a little bit more in depth, a little more difficult, and more. Oh, there's any sequels. Well, level 2 is the secondary colors, but it would go into more focus of adding, so say like a warm blue or a cool red, something like that for future iterations. But as it stands, once it's finished, the goal is to let the license for an elementary school, so it would be in place for an art class, which would help save money and still be fun because they could say, hey, we're going to art class now, go to the computers.
Very good. Well, again, great job. I'm very, very proud of you. So.
Thank you, Professor Smith. And there's a question, Aubrey, for you in the chat. Professor Adam Moore talked about, approaching the school boards rather than the schools themselves, since they make budget decisions. So that's something that I can certainly help you with, having run STEM programs at elementary school level. And then also, any thoughts on adding another language?
We actually did plan for Spanish because one of the people working on the project in production studio mentioned that he would be able to do Spanish. But since he was a 5-week student that didn't have a lot of time, finding voices for these are really difficult to have someone throughout. But there are plans in the future specifically to focus, once we have English, then we'd focus in Spanish. There's also plans for a colorblind mode and subtitles for those that would be able to still learn even with the sort of hindrances, I guess. But basically, I'd want to have it as many versions of it to help anybody.
Que bueno, ojalá y suceda. Well done. I hope it happens. And thank you, Aubrey. Any other questions for Aubrey? If you do, you can go ahead and include them in the chat feature. Well done, Aubrey. I'm very excited about this project and congrats on presenting today. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move along to Audra Jackson, who is a digital media major.
Hi, my name is Audra Jackson, and I'm a digital media major. My SIP is Easy Rearranging. Easy Rearranging is a service within an app that will allow people who aren't able to see their room rearranged without actually moving their furniture. I came up with this idea when using digital graphing paper to help my boyfriend and his roommates rearrange their furniture once a semester. When you open Easy Rearranging's app for the first time, you'll be prompted to sign into your account. You can do so with an email and password through Facebook or Google. If you don't have an account, you can click Sign Up at the bottom of the page to create one with the same options. I'm going to log in with my email and my password. Once you're logged in, you'll see the home page provides an example of furniture and a new arrangement after a remodel. From here, you can go to the menu by clicking the 3 bars at the top left. Selecting the menu icon again will take you back to the page you were previously on, or you can select the next page you would like to see. The About Us page provides a brief description of what Easy Rearranging is and the services provided, as well as contact information at the bottom of the page. The pricing page breaks down the cost of digital layouts based on the number of pieces of furniture being moved, capping at 10 pieces for $180. Measurements and Info page allows the user to fill out their personal information, reason for rearranging, and measurements of furniture, as well as possibly attach an image. Once you've provided all of your information, simply hit Submit and we'll send the form to our email. It will leave all the information in the form until you leave the page to allow you to view for mistakes and resend another form as needed. Once you've submitted your information, you'll receive an automated inquiry email letting you know when we received your request. Once our team has reviewed your request, we'll reach out about the cost of digital layouts, and after payment is received, you'll receive a confirmation email providing a time frame on when to expect the layouts. Finally, you'll receive the email with the digital layouts attached. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always respond to the emails. Thank you.
Thank you, Audra. Done. Any questions for Audra?
Play the game together.
Audra, good work on getting it all set and done. I know there was a lot of setbacks, and so good job just keeping through and persevering through that. I guess I know you focused it just on like rooms, but do you ever see this being like a future iteration for maybe larger businesses or different, like maybe just larger scale setups for it as well?
Yeah, I definitely see the ability to move forward with something outside of like a house or anything. Like, I know I've pitched this a couple of times and talked with my boss a couple of times regarding what the project is and given an example of if we ever wanted to rearrange how like the study hall area would look, we could use this app to do something along this. So definitely it is an option, and that would kind of go with like the pricing and whatnot. I would just have to reiterate the pricing to have like a business model.
Good. I'm glad you put some thought into that too as well. So good job getting it all set, done. And I know that this idea has been kind of like evolving over the semester. So great work.
Thank you.
Audra, I do have a question for you. With the tiny house movement and young millennials purchasing homes for the first time, there's a great opportunity for you to introduce this app for those individuals that have smaller spaces. Any consideration on how you can, leverage that trend right now?
I'm not really 100% sure on where I would go with leveraging that trend. One of the thoughts I had a couple of months ago was possibly partnering with like moving companies of like to have it sponsored and whatnot. So like if you're getting a moving truck from U-Haul, they could sponsor the app and say, hey, if you need your stuff rearranged, do this. And that's just kind of one of the thoughts I've gone with.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for upsell with even furniture stores. Once you provide what the space actually looks like, perhaps they may not even know where to locate that specific size couch or lamp or desk. And so there's a lot of opportunity for partnerships with other companies as well. Any other questions for Audra? All righty. Thank you so much, Audra. Good luck with your app and good luck with everything else.
Thank you.
My pleasure. All righty. So that concludes the digital marketing, advertising art, digital media, and business technology majors. Now we're moving on to digital video with Sophie Sargent and her vendor-ending project.
Have you ever been watching a show or movie and wished you could change what would happen? Good morning, everyone. My name is Sophie Sargent. My major is digital video, and this is my SIP, Verandering. Verandering is an interactive 2D animated short film where viewers can change both the plot and the art style of the film by selecting the main character's choices. The purpose of this project is to change the way audiences interact with film by allowing them to alter a character's actions and the film's appearance. My project was inspired by the Choose Your Own Adventure books. In that series, as the story continues, readers are presented with choices that allow them to select what happens next. A reader won't know what happens in the whole story after only reading through one time. The same applies for Verandering. It's different from other movies and shows because viewing it once won't give the audience everything they need to know. Different choices will reveal different details, such as the choice to take the pills. When that choice is selected, the audience can see the childhood flashback of the main character. To create Verandering, first everything was drawn out on storyboards. And those storyboards were replicated in Illustrator where almost everything was on a separate layer for animating. Next, all of those Illustrator files were imported to After Effects and given the appropriate basic animation. Once all of the paths were complete, they were embedded into Twine, a program designed to create branching written stories like the Choose Your Own Adventure books. However, it works just as well with branching film. Here we have the second branch, where the audience can decide which radio station the character should play. This choice is more impactful than the first because the resulting storylines are drastically different. Twine saves this project as an HTML file that will work when opened in most browsers. Twine can be easily edited, and with additional depth to the decision tree, more character options and art styles are available to the audience. Now let's see what happens when the other radio station is chosen. Ultimately, I want to alter the way audiences interact with films by allowing them to change their experience. The future of films is here. With Verandering, I believe I can spark this change. Thank you.
Well done, Sophie. Any questions for Sophie?
I have a couple, yes. Sophie, could you explain the difference in the animation and kind of what your inspiration for your art style was?
Sure. So, one art style was inspired by a Spanish artist. Another was from like some stop motion. Another was tattooing style, and the other was inspired by like 8-bit NES games.
Okay. And there's one choice there where you go into a different frame rate.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go into a little more detail about that?
So the different frame rates were just to help push on the different styles.
Okay. And then one last question. Why is the radio a more important choice than the pills? I mean, just from a character perspective.
So I wanted to make the choices things that at first glance they wouldn't really seem like something super important. So it would have more of like a surprising impact for the audience.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Sophie? And Sophie, something that I want to point out, you're the only digital video major, and I think this is a great example of the possibilities of the future of film, you know, just integrating the different styles and having a little bit more interactivity. So well done on that. And for those of you that are joining us for the first time, I'm Professor Valenzuela, and this is our virtual Fall 2020 SIP Showcase at UAT. We just concluded the Robotics and Embedded Systems, Digital Maker Fabrication, along with Advertising Art, Digital Media, and Digital Video. So now we'll go ahead and continue our presenters with Game Art and Animation, Game Programming, Game Design, and Virtual Reality. So next up, we have Alessandra Caballero, who is a Game Art and Animation major.
Hello, I'm Alessandra Caballero and my major is Game Art and Animation, and I am going to present my SIP in art. I've always loved art and art history and learning about it, so I wanted to create something around that. The only way I have learned about art history in the past is through lectures, and I know that people have different learning styles, so I wanted to create a more immersive learning experience. The idea I came up with was to recreate famous paintings into 3D environments, recreating everything from the layout to lighting, mood, and matching the art style by imitating the technique through texturing. For my prototype, I decided to go with Impressionism and chose Van Gogh as the artist I was going to match. I chose the painting Café Terrace at Night as it portrays a scene that has a particular ambience to it. I began by conceptualizing a 3D environment out of the 2D painting. I used Google Maps to see the actual location and get an idea of the layout. After doing a couple sketches, I started modeling the assets and arranging the scene in Maya. I also decided to create a base material that would simulate brushstrokes and use it to texture the objects. Impressionism has thick, heavy brushstrokes, and they look like they were done quickly. I tried to recreate this in my material creation. I textured all the assets using Substance Painter and integrated them into Unreal following the layout I had previously created. I also limited the environment by using blocking volumes and a plane with texture that matched the original painting. I was also told by the SMEs that post-processing in Unreal was going to be a big part of my project, so I researched and followed a tutorial to make a painting post-processing effect so everything would look as if it was painted, and it worked really well. Next, I had to work on the learning aspect of the project, so I chose to create text pop-ups that would appear as the user moves around the scene, showing information and interesting facts about the artist and the painting. For this, I created a blueprint to automate pop-ups. At first, I had text appear in-game, but then I noticed that post-processing was making it hard to read the text, so I chose to move it to the user interface, using a blueprint too. Then, to have a more complete prototype, I created a start menu where the user can choose to start, options, and quit. The user would be able to choose from different artists and paintings in the options tab, given I had more to choose from. Professor Bowling suggested me to create a start sequence to showcase the scene cinematically before the user can walk around and explore the facts. So I went into Sequencer and created a cinematic introduction. This project has the option to be used in K-12 schools, as well as post-secondary education and wherever else art history is taught, like museums. The user will be able to move around the 3D model painting while obtaining easy to remember knowledge related to the artwork. Now I will show you the final functional prototype using the start menu.
Wow, Alessandra, what a beautiful gift you've shared with us today. Very,
Thank
very nice. Any questions for Alessandra?
Yeah. So I hope you're reading the chat over there. They're going nuts.
Yeah,
for
I'm
it.
reading all of it.
Which is usually a pretty good sign. Yeah, so when I was watching that, it was kind of clear that there was more than just art going on in there, and that's your major is art. And so what I wanted to know was what kind of fields or what kind of areas did you have to learn that were a little bit outside the realm of art to get to that point? Because obviously I think in this case, there's definitely some skill sets beyond what you would normally do as an artist being shown.
Well, I had to look into blueprints in Unreal and also some user interface because I had no idea how to do that. So I had to get more into that and look up tutorials to get like a menu and to also have interaction with the objects. So that I used blueprints for that.
Any other questions for Alessandra? Professor Portillo?
Hi, Alessandra. So as sure as you're aware, I'm super impressed by the level of commitment you've done with this project. I've been a fan since day one, since its inception. I'm just curious to see where you're going to take this. I know you kind of wanted to focus on the Van Gogh art style, but me personally, I would want to see like some Salvador Dali because that guy was just deranged, and I would love to be in those worlds. What are you thinking? Are you thinking of maybe captivating other art styles, or what's your approach with this?
Yeah, definitely. I want to get more different art movements, so to have like a variety. So I definitely plan to include like surrealism and maybe even like cubism or something like that. But yeah, I want to expand on the different art movements.
Many of us former art majors are kind of going crazy over here, Alessandra. Any questions, Alessandra?
Sorry?
Oh, just double checking if there are any other questions for you. Okay. And don't forget to use the raised hand feature just in the event that we don't catch your question, as well as additional questions via the chat feature. So Alessandra, well-deserved comments in the chat feature. Thank you so much for presenting.
Thank you.
Does Lynn have a question? I thought I saw her hand go up.
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, there you are, Lynn.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yes, I'm a fan, Alessandra. You've done an excellent job capturing the style of this particular artist. I know that using game art tools to tackle some of the issues was quite challenging for you. Can you describe some of those issues, such as the trunk of the trees?
Yeah,
And how
so
you
most like the issues I had was mostly with getting the textures right. So I use post processing for that because I only used like normal maps on the models, but it wasn't enough. So I went into post processing to like emphasize that effect.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
Nice work, Alessandra. Just don't forget us when you become famous.
Thank you.
All righty. So we'll go ahead and continue with our next presenter, Michael Nicholson, who is a double major in game design and game art and animation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Nicholson, and I'm the designer of Critters of the Dark. I am a double major in game design and game art and animation here at UAT. For years now, I've been in love with the idea of games connecting more with the growing streaming industry, and I see an opportunity to bridge these worlds in new and exciting ways. For those who may not know, a live streaming platform is a website in which users can broadcast themselves playing games or performing other activities to other users on the platform. This is very similar to YouTube, but with a focus in live user content. Those streaming are called streamers, and those watching are called viewers. The two platforms I focused on were Twitch and Mixer. This all started as a project to help streamers on Mixer earn more after Embers replaced Sparks as Mixer's monetizable currency. Since each Ember was worth about a penny and partners only kept 10% of what they earned in Ember patronage, this became a prominent issue amongst the community. The only way to earn a greater percent from your Ember earnings was to reach certain Spark milestones every week. This of course required viewers to spend Sparks in your chat, and the only way to earn Sparks was to watch for lengthy amounts of time. This also created a lot of competition amongst partner streamers to get Sparks from their viewers. When coming up with the idea for Critters of the Dark, I wanted to use the sub-second latency and first-party interactive SDK available on Mixer to create an interactive game. Currently, there are a few interactive games that support Twitch or Mixer interactivity. Sadly, they primarily revolve around viewers voting and spectating the results of their votes. I knew from the start I wanted viewers to participate in the game, but also wanted them to do more than spectate. This is where the founding design for Critters of the Dark came from. Critters of the Dark is designed to be an interactive 4-player horror game where players try to escape a monster based on cultural legends from around the world. Once the players connected their game to their Twitch account, a range of functions will unlock for viewers, allowing them to play alongside the streamer. Viewers within the session are given a set of objectives at the start of the game. To complete these objectives, viewers will use the stream's chat to activate commands. These commands include abilities, an AI ghost for each user, and participation in rituals such as banishing the monster. Each user also has a set amount of spirit energy which depletes with each command activated. You may also use bits, a paid digital currency on Twitch, to multiply the effects of abilities or temporarily boost a player's stats. Alternatively, They may sacrifice their spirit energy to activate these effects. This in turn supports the streamer by keeping their chat engaged and active, while giving viewers a meaningful role as they watch and control their spirit. This also encourages collaboration and individual effort amongst viewers, whereas with the typical spam or voting systems, whoever activated the button or command first most likely gets their way. On the screen now is a demo of some of the systems at play. On the right hand side, you can see a user activating the commands via a streamer's chat feature on Twitch. Currently, there are a few abilities available to the viewer. As long as the viewer has energy to perform the task, they can do it. Note, their action or lack thereof does not prevent someone else from doing their task. Using these abilities, viewers are able to complete one primary goal and two optional objectives. The primary goal changes depending on the status of the match. It may go from assist players with 2 puzzles to protect the remaining survivor. In this demo, the primary objective is to protect the remaining survivor with 2 optional objectives. Those being A, unlock a room, and B, find 7 items in a room. Once any objective is completed, active participants will be notified of what their next objectives are. There's a lot more to come for this project. Some plans I can't fully disclose quite yet. However, I intend to continue working on this project with the goal of releasing this to the public in the future. If you'd like to learn more or keep up to date with this project, feel free to email me or visit my website. Links can be found in this video. Feel free to share any questions or comments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michael. Well done. This is a great example of the increase in popularity of interactive games and broadcasting platforms. Nice job. All right, we have a question for Professor Marquit.
Yeah, man, what's going on, Michael? So the question that I've got, and I'm actually kind of surprised you didn't put it in your video, was how did you handle the switch in technology? If you can tell like a little bit of story behind that kind of whole scenario that happened to you.
So as of, what was it, June 22nd, if I'm correct, of this year, Mixer decided to shut down abruptly, which forced myself and the production studio team to move everything over to Twitch. And this required me to quickly learn a lot about databases, some integration with casting between Blueprint actors, where before with the Mixer functionality, everything was kind of built in. It was a first party plugin that you could use within Unreal. And then we were moving to using a third party plugin off the marketplace. So I had to learn that plugin. I had to essentially rewrite a lot of the code from scratch and redesign it, knowing that there's a lot of things that aren't on Twitch that were on Mixer, and make sure that it was comfortable for users who are already on Twitch, as well as new people coming over to Twitch.
Any other questions for Michael? Professor Understiller?
Thank you. My hand raise isn't working for some reason. So this is more of a comment than a question. Actually, Michael, I just want to commend you for what you had accomplished there. That was one of the quickest and most successful migrations during production that I had witnessed in studio. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we definitely always welcome comments as well as questions. Well done, Michael. Thank you very much. Any other questions for Michael? All right. Thank you, Michael. Now we'll move on to our next presenter, Chance Sweeney, who is a game design major.
Hello everyone, my name is Chance Sweeney and I am a game designer. In this video, I'd like to show off something I've been working on for the past 3 semesters. It's a game I've been calling Gun Mayhem. Now, Gun Mayhem is a third-person shooter with a shared resource system known as Equilibrium. But before I can show you the system, let's go back and see how this project came to life. Throughout my life, I've spent a lot of my time playing video games, starting from the early consoles such as Nintendo 64, Xbox, PlayStation, and even the Game Boy. Games have evolved quite a bit since then, but we still enjoy them all the same. One particular genre I loved playing as a kid was co-op games. That's all I ever wanted to do when going over to a friend's house. Screw everything else, let's just play some Halo. However, co-op games aren't nearly as popular today as they were back then. I hope to change that one day starting with Gun Mayhem. It brings a whole new mechanic to the scene with a shared resource system known as Equilibrium. There are two parts to the system, matter and energy. Player 1 and Player 2 can only use one of these two parts. If Player 1 is bound to the matter side, he can only spend that resource, which means Player 2 is bound to the energy side and can only spend that resource. Well, okay, Chance, that all makes sense so far, but what does this resource even do? This resource has a variety of uses. Example 1. It is a spending resource for player abilities like healing, grenades, and even reloading. You must have the required amount of resource in order to use them. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, here's the catch. Once a resource is spent on one side, it is then converted and transferred to its opposite. So if player 1 were to spend 20 matter resource to use his grenade ability, then player 2 will now have 20 more energy resource to utilize. This creates an imbalance of the two resources, breaking the equilibrium, and that is the heart of this mechanic, that back and forth of spending resources and creating this imbalance. While the resources are imbalanced, the player with more resources becomes more powerful, while the player with less resources becomes weaker. This creates a sort of seesaw effect between the two players. Sounds cool, but there is a glaring issue with this. What's stopping player 2 from hogging all the power? In order to encourage players to play seesaw with their resources, we need to reward them in some way for completing the seesaw effect. So, every time that imbalance shifts from one player to the other, both players get a stack of Universal Balance. Universal Balance is a stacking buff that benefits both players and, when they have enough, they will get access to powerful abilities such as Stim Boost. Stim Boost costs 10 stacks of Universal Balance, but grants both players an 8-second buff that gives them double speed, double fire rate, and infinite ammo. Having all these wonderful rewards should incentivize players to cooperate in order to get the max benefit out of the system, and this only scratches the surface of what this mechanic can do. For example, let's take a look at this passive skill tree. This skill tree could prove to be a really nice addition to the game to help with player progression or add more interesting interactions with Equilibrium. One example of a passive ability is Panic Stealth. Going below 10% of one's resource will cause that player to go into a stealth mode, where enemies won't be able to detect them for 5 seconds. This gives one player a really nice boost in damage due to the massive imbalance in resources, while the other player can utilize their stealth in order to reposition themselves for an even greater advantage. Now that I've explained how everything works, let's watch some gameplay of how this could all play out.
Getting those stacks up.
Really make it so those doors just stay open. Okay. I'm very low.
You're fine, sure. Or yeah. Oh, I might not be able to. Okay.
Once again, guys, my name is Chance Sweeney, and this is Gun Mayhem. Thank you for watching.
Wow, Chance, you're making us look good. Well done. All right, we have a question for Professor Marquardt.
All right, Chance, awesome job, man. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of lag with the video, so it was harder to see.
Yeah.
So if you guys get a chance to like download the video and like definitely do it, because I've been watching this project since the beginning. It's amazing. So my question to you is, I know how it started and where it, and how it's gotten to where it's come, but the same thing, I really think you need to tell the audience this. How did it start? How did your idea start? And how did you basically evolve it to where it is now?
The first idea for the game was completely different. The title was Red and Blue. It was basically like a co-op puzzle game with the same like shared mechanic. but instead of it being like matter and energy, it was heat. And one character was more fire based and the one was water. And I was going to be playing off that. But I didn't want to start it just from scratch. And I already had a project, Gun Mayhem at the time, which was basically already a playable prototype. Like I had a bunch of third person like animations and shooting mechanics in that game. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to try and incorporate it into this game I already have built. And it was a struggle at first, but I eventually figured it out. And yeah, that's where it started.
Any other questions for Chance?
Oh, and as far as the slideshow went, since it was a bit laggy, I can put the link for the YouTube video if anyone wants to go back and watch it in the chat.
Yes, please do, Chance. We'd love to see it again. Professor Bowling?
Hi there. Yeah, I was just curious what engine you were using, and yeah, it looks really good. I was interested to hear.
I was using Unreal Engine, actually.
Awesome. Good
And
stuff.
actually, if I remember correctly, you helped me with some of the animating parts of this as well.
Oh, cool.
I can't remember exactly which part it was. I think it was the aim offset or something like that. I can't remember exactly which part it was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you helped me with part of it.
All right. Well, okay, cool.
Dr. Hugh?
Yeah, great work. It looks amazing. I really like that. It's a great thing for kind of a cooperative style game. Any thoughts about how you would incorporate a design to work with an AI that works as your other player, so you could be a single player mode, or any of that thought process come through, or is it solely 2-player?
Yeah, I had that idea in mind. I have no idea where to start with like an AI that would work with you. I was able to make AI that could fight you and stuff like that, but I have no idea where to even start with a cooperative AI. But yeah, that was part of the original idea, was to have like a single player mode where you can just have like an AI fighting along with you.
Nice. I can help. We can talk about it later.
Perfect.
Thank you, Dr. Hugh Henry. Any other questions from faculty?
Yeah, I have a question. When are you going into early access, and where can I buy the game?
I would love to go into early access through Steam. That would be awesome, because I have the multiplayer working through Steam, but I don't have my own dev app ID, so it's a bit laggy, it's a bit jank, but it does work.
All right, Chance, you see that there's a demand for your game. Any other questions? All right, Chance, enjoy all the wonderful comments in the chat. Well done. Thank you for presenting. So now we're going to continue with game art and animation, game design, game programming, and VR. So that way you can continue to view all the wonderful projects, and then we'll move on to AI, ACS, and our cyber majors. So if this is the first time that you're joining us after our lunch break, welcome. It's nice to have you. It's wonderful to see all the faculty and UAT staff members celebrating, this event with our students who have worked so hard to work on their SIP projects. And for those early students who are viewing our projects, know that this is an iterative process. It happens over time with a lot of guidance from your subject matter experts, and myself and Dr. Kathleen Dunley, who facilitates our SIP online projects. And so far, we've had projects presented by Daniel, Garen, Aubrey, Audra, Sophie, Alessandra, Michael, and Chance. So we're going to continue on with the rest. As a friendly reminder, we are voting on best of show and most market ready. And then for the audience, you are able to choose the Viewer's Choice Award. And right there on the screen, you'll be able to see that you can log on to Socrative.com, so that way you can vote for your favorite. And also, as we continue with the presentations, if you have any questions, you can include them in the chat feature, so that way everybody can see the comments and questions. And for those that have questions for the faculty members after the students present, simply just raise your hand or unmute yourself, so that way we can hear you loud and clear. And I think that's it. We'll go ahead and get started with our next presenter. We have Josue Espinosa Beltran, and he is a game programming major.
Hello, everyone. This is Project Transition. My name is Josue Espinosa, and I'm the game programmer for this project. And a huge thanks to James Cortesano, who helped with the art in this project. So how did this project came to be? I have played many horror and scary games in which I have seen many environmental changes where characters pop up in front of the player to generate scare jumps. If we see the GIF credits to Silent Hill, we can see how there are blood stripes coming out of the floor, and in the window, you see there is a change with the character model which is covered in blood. Also, we can see how the tub is clean on the mirror, but in the player's perspective, it's filled with blood. So these changes made me think what I can do instead of making the environment change. What if we change the whole character's model? And with it, we go to the LED system. Playing around with Unity and its built-in LED system, it made me think that we can use the LED system to accomplish the change. So what is the LED system? The LED is a mesh that defines the level of detail for a game object. Unity shows the game object as the camera closes in on the game object and hides it when it gets farther away. As we can see in the examples, there is the LED 0, 1, 2, and cold. On LED 0, the game object has more polygons and has more detail than LED 1, which has less detail and less polygons. Now moving on to LED system and gaming. LED system and gaming are used in various game objects such as trees, mountains, and other non-movable game objects. We can also see that LEDs are used to update a character's model into a better looking one as the camera focuses on the player. As we can see in picture number 1, it has a lot of polygon as the grass and mountains don't have that much detail. As we moved on to the pictures, we can see how it went from just polygons to a high details on the grass and the mountains. You can even see how Link's shield has more detail in the last picture than in the first one. Now, if we look in our second image, we can see how the level of detail works on characters. We start with LED 0, in which we can see the character has not only a lot of detail, but also has a lot of polygons, making our character look in a higher resolution. And as we moved on to LED 7, we can see how the character does not have many polygons and does not look anything like LED 0. This is how LED works in gaming, updating a character depending on how close and how far the camera is from the environment or the playable character. Now we move to Project Transition. I made use of Unity's LED system to not only update a character's polygon, but also make the character's model change with it. We can see how the character model changes into another model, and we can see the transition in between 3 models. So the innovation comes in using the LED system to change these models, updating them to make the character model change into another model little by little, making it easier and efficient for game programmers to deal with when they try to change a model in video games. Now we're going to see a comparison video side by side, so you can see how we change from one model to another model and to another model. So in here, we can see how the polygons update in between the models. So we started with the alien form. While moving in, we can see the model morphing in with the cop's clothes, and if we get closer, we see the change from an alien to a human cop. We can see while we are closing in the character model, it's updating the polygons and also changing the character's model until we end up with the model with a higher resolution. So technically doing this comparison side by side, again, I'll just use this as reference. Again, we started with the low resolution model, and as you can see, we come into our next model, which is the alien form, going with the cop clothes, having the alien head and the alien's hand, kind of having more polygons, but it's not high resolution until we get into our more polygon LED and a higher resolution model, which is the cup one. As we can see in the picture, it has more high detail than the other 2 models that we have. So what is the future of Project Transition? In the future, I would like to implement this prototype into a game. I would like to also work more with project transition to deliver a polished transition in between characters and make project transition not only for character models, but use it for interactable objects as well. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for your interest and attention.
Thank you very much, Josue. Well done. All right, looks like we have a question from Dr. Hugh Henry.
Blue.
All right, so I can see that your innovation was using a system that already exists, the LOD system, for something other than its intended purpose. Instead of using it for saving memory, you're using it for changing a character kind of gameplay wise. Do you feel that that worked better than doing it programmatically the way you would do it without LOD, or do you think using the LOD system that you came up with actually works better than a programmatic system, and kind of why you think which one would be better?
So last summer I tried with like programming wise, and then like this semester I tried with the LOD system. I do have like a more what was it? I have like been more comfortable using the LOD system to make the change. So it's, for me it was easier to like just use the built-in LOD system for making the changes instead of doing all the whole programming and all that stuff for like so as you saw, we had like 3 different character models for just one character that I wanted to change in between them, and then I had another character. And with the LOD system, it was time efficient, and it made me like use well, less time to like make that transition useful and everything like that. So yeah, I think that the LOD system was like easier to maneuver with, and then just like do the whole programming wise material.
Thank you, Josue. Looks like we have a question from Professor Marquit.
All right. So like in the beginning, you alluded to, you know, it potentially being applied to horror games or things like that. Is there any kind of, what are the practical purposes to this SIP, possibly even beyond horror that you can think of?
So for like what I thought of at first was using it. So you know how well, in Silent Hill they created like an environmental change and all that stuff. Instead of doing that, I wanted to like create it so where you're just looking in like in between the world and everything, and you see like this monster like out of nowhere, and like if you go closer and closer into him, you'll see a change of it, and it's not really a monster, it's really just a human NPC. And whenever you go back, it could also go like vice versa with the enemies. You can just like see how your like character is like getting crazy, and seeing how your what was it, your character is like not having like its mind correctly towards the NPCs and everything like that. So
sanity.
Yeah, that. Thank you. And I just wanted to like use the sanity of a character so that it changes the character models, and mostly that was like most of the purpose. But if we can do this with just like horror games and all that stuff, why cannot we do this like let's say like a platform game that we can change like a little bit stuff for like puzzles and more of that sort of. But yeah, my intention was more for horror games, but yeah.
All right, we have a question from Professor Portillo.
Hey, Joshua, I don't think we've had the pleasure of meeting each other, probably because you're a programmer and I'm the art guy. But I'm definitely admire, you committing your project to kind of cross-pollinate, with artists, programmers, and designers. And I think this is a great fit for kind of pushing in graphic fidelity from the art side. So that's really cool. My question to you is, since you were working, with artists and so forth, what are some of the most important things you learned from a discipline that obviously isn't yours, based on what artists do in terms of their pipelines and how they're able to assist with your innovation claim here?
So what I learned was that polygons and like more of that sort of the level of detail, it's not easy to handle. I like tried to understand it and like tried to also make like my own kind of changes. And as a programmer, it's not like, for me, it's not like super easy just to like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna do like a little change in the character model, it's gonna be easier. No, now I learn how it's like more it's hard just doing the rendering, doing more of that stuff. So before I started doing like another like using more of more character models and all that, one of my friends that he's a game artist, he helped me with it, and like whenever he showed me that, he made me understand like what I could do with it, and or how it was made and everything. I was like, dude, that's like so complicated. Like for me, it's so complicated, and like it's good like how I got to know like the other side of the artist, because I usually just like get stuff and then just program it. I don't do like everything from scratch basically like them, and I like how they do like their work, or how they like start with something and they can just fix it or change it and everything like that. So it was great working with another with my friend the artist that helped me a lot with my project.
All right. Professor Bowling, did you have a question?
Yeah, my hand raise thing wouldn't work, so sorry about that. Yeah, I was just curious, like, did you want it to be completely camera driven, where it's distance from the camera, or did you find another way to actually trigger those transitions without having it be driven from the camera?
So I wanted to use the camera, but I'm still looking for another way to like I can just trigger it without the camera. But mainly the focus is it's on the camera, so that whenever you get more close and close to the character, you can see that change. But if we can just use like, let's say like a button mechanic that can do that, that could be also like cool with it.
Cool. And the other question I had was, so all of them, just so I'm clear on how their LOD system works. So all the models have to share the same skeleton, otherwise they won't swap, right?
Oh, so technically I used so on the other character that I used, they have different skeletons, and then they could change, but the transition is not as clean as the alien and cop one. So I just made the other one like use the same skeleton and just well, technically my artist friend James did use the same skeleton, and he did that. But I did learn that using like different skeletons, it does trigger the change, but the transitions are like not smoother or doesn't look that good.
Gotcha. Cool. Good stuff, man.
Thank you.
We have time for one more question, Professor Understiller.
Thank you. I'm wondering about the optimizations also for that particular tool set. LOD systems are set up so that you decrease the number of polygons from the distance of the camera. I'm wondering if you've run any tests to see if your characters may even increase the number of polygons used. So I'm wondering if you've run any tests to find out what the frame rate hit might be.
So I didn't do that because usually I'm not. So I don't know how so a lot of the polygons with characters and all that. Technically, this was my what was it, third time going with more polygon stuff and everything with renders and all that, and I was like, wait, why does it look like so pixelated? Like I wanted it to look like even better. But also with using the camera, like the LOD system and the camera and stuff and all that, it did made it harder for them to like be less pixelated than I anticipated to. And then I learned that usually whenever you put your last the last render into the cold, it's like, oh yeah, we're just gonna do it like less polygon and it's gonna be more pixelated. So that's like the cold is why it's from. And I was like, okay, cool. So I'm hopefully just using the LOD 0, 1, and 2 so that it can look better than just using the cold.
Okay. Answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Josue. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the next presenter, Jacob Riggs, who is a game programming major.
Hello, I'm Jacob Briggs, and this is my SIP project, the Lifelike Dialogue System. While I explain a bit more of what it is and why I did it, you'll see an example of picking the same dialogue option twice while waiting different amounts of times to answer to get two different conversations out of it. So now let's jump into more what it is. It's a system that will allow for deeper character development in moments based on the choices and interactions from the player themselves instead of focusing on the character that they're playing specifically. So why did I decide to do this? It's because I love writing characters and enjoy when games allow for deep characters with lots of development and story and character beats. I wanted to make something that let me take this even further and allows for characters to grow in different ways based off of how the player thinks and treats them. Next, I'll be showing off a different way to interact with characters and get a reaction out of them. And it's just to interact with them based off of how many times you interact with them in a certain time frame. You can get a reaction out of the character. Like in this example, we see a bright person like Millie get excited that you are interacting with them multiple times in a short amount of time. So now let's get in a bit of how I did it. Right here we have one of my first important functions, which is make choice, which is simply called whenever a choice is made by the player for the dialogue. And what it does is it checks how long it took you to answer, and depending how fast it or slow you took, it gives you a certain option for that question. So here's another important set of functions. Here we have end talk timer, which pretty much just makes it so that when you're done with a conversation, it'll start timing the time it takes you to get to your next one. And then right along with that is time since last talk, which will check how long it's been since your last talk, and if it's short enough, it'll add to your number of talks in the last few seconds. And in a rapid talk, if your number of talks in a rapid succession is high enough, it will go in, find the character you're talking to, find the conversation that is special to talking to them multiple times, and it will set their next special conversation to that special speed conversation. And so now the last script with important functions, we first have in our update, we have if conversation started equals false, which means if there's no conversation going on, we will grab the end talk timer and just start running it, see if they either talk fast to get the fast talk, or if we reset the number because they don't talk in a certain amount of time. The next function is choose for button, which first checks for if we're in a conversation or not. If we aren't, then it'll check our time since last talk and see if it needs to add or take away for the rapid talk. Next, it checks if a special conversation is set, which are for in-game events like an introductory or like a story beat. If that isn't true, then it checks to see if the player has been doing rapid talks and plays that conversation if it's true. If that isn't true, then it'll choose a random conversation from the library of the character in question, which basically means it's just a random small little conversation that will pop up. To make it easier, we have all of our conversations and questions made as scriptable objects. So we set our speakers, which will just bring up the name and the portrait, and we set the character also to know which box to bring up, left or right side. And then you write all of your dialogue, and then at the bottom you can set a score for just conversations, and then you can attach a question to it or just another conversation to it. So for example, what you use the positive negative score for is the Millie Rapid one, because it's a special interaction, it will add score to it. And then to look at the question, so you have the text for the question, the little prompt, and then you have your choices, size 3 for this one because there was 3 options. So then you have your options, and then you have your fast answer, your neutral answer, and your slow answer for each and every one, and then you connect that to a conversation, and you can connect it, set the scores that it will pick depending on how long it takes you. So these are all of the different, this is below 3 seconds, this is 3 to 7 seconds, and this is more than 7 seconds. If you take that long, then it will choose that certain one.
Thank you, Jacob. Any questions for Jacob? Looks like we have a question from Norman. Go ahead, Norman.
So, can you hear?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so you it reminds me of Mass Effect because because you make choices that are very effective with it. So what's so different about from Mass Effect's perspective? Because when the choices in Mass Effect could affect the game, what's so different about for your innovation for this?
So instead of being in the sort of thing like Mass Effect where it's just you make your choice and it's a positive or negative choice, this one is instead it also is dependent on how much time you take to answer. So if you take too long but you still try to answer positively, it might not go the way that you want it to. When in a game like Mass Effect, the only timed thing is not getting to answer at all.
Okay, looks like we have a question from Dr. Hugh Henry.
Yeah. So excellent use on kind of adding time as one of the elements that affects the dialogue choice. It's not just what words you say, but the time that you spend on that. What different time measurements are you doing? And are they very categorical where like you're in fast, slow, or medium, or is it more of a gradient where you can kind of be partially in between and the two can overlap?
As of right now, with what I have built, it's just a set second time frame. There's no gradient for it, but that would be an interesting place to take it, building it out further.
All right. Any other questions for Jacob? Okay, thank you so much, Jacob. Well done. Go with our next presenter, Dylan Combs, who is a game design major.
A shadow can be more than just a lighting effect. This is my innovation claim. This is you. And this is also you. It's important to know, so you'll need to utilize both characters' abilities to progress. Moving this little starlight around lets you move your shadow around pretty freely. This is important, as all your abilities are tied to where and which shadow you're using. Placing the light above you sits your shadow on the floor, but you can change how far away from it goes from you. It also lets you do a stomp attack like this. And it also lets you flip objects that normally would be impassable. Putting the light below you sits your shadow on the wall like this, and you can move it around as you like. Moving it further away can make the shadow taller, and you can pick up things with it like this, and move it around freely, and be able to set it down where you want. You can also walk around while carrying it for more versatility. You could even grab it through a wall. You could even use the stomp move on the crate, and that allows you to do this. Combine this all together, and you can clear a wall like this. Now that was just the game itself, and there's quite a story behind this. This was all made in Construct, for reference, and it has been quite a road getting here. So, the first iteration of the project was very different from what it is now. It's basically an entirely different concept, involving jumping between two layers. The background layer being the foreground layer's shadow. And there's this whole thing, like you were going to throw enemies in the background, but turned out there was a different game that is very similar to this. And a character from a different game who had this kind of style, but no one actually played the character like that. The second iteration involved using your shadow to extend your attacks, as you can see by this very good mock-up. But first, I made a prototype. And there may be some similarities between this and the final product. But here, it was much more simple. The shadow, quote-unquote, was always to the exact opposite side of where you were pointing, and you could only teleport to it. So there wasn't a whole lot of depth to the movement quite yet. Unfortunately, I could not use Construct for what the game was going to be now, because it doesn't have a lighting engine. So, I took to the one that I knew the most, and that had a lighting engine, Unreal. But it didn't quite go as planned. This is as much as I've done. That little ball in the middle is supposed to represent the light source. But I only succeeded at getting it to wiggle around the middle of the screen, unfortunately. It was here that I talked to some peers, and they recommended an engine called Godot. And, after several weeks of pain, this was all that came of it. And it seemed like every little thing became a weeks-long issue with Godot. For a while, pushing left in the build would crash the game. Eventually, after a lot of reflection, I decided to go back to Construct, and made exactly what I wanted in 2 days. So, maybe the lesson here is that the big shiny new thing isn't always the best idea to make a game. I know this is a bit rambly, but I feel like the history of this thing is just as important as the finished product. And that, my friends, is all I have for today. A shadow can be a lot more than just a lighting effect. Thank you for watching.
Well done, Dylan. Professor Markwood?
Thank you.
Yeah, so I've seen the progression of this as well, and I'm going to be honest with you. That video is probably my favorite SIP video ever. Like, seriously, like the game looks awesome, and you're taking something 2D and making, see, everyone, you were talking about this high tech, these crazy engines, and this is not to take away from anything anyone else has done, don't get me wrong. But as far as what you've created, I've just been super impressed with taking like a 2D and a simple game engine, just creating something awesome with it. What I loved about your video as well is you showed the process, the thought process of getting there, kind of how you struggled, because sometimes we just see the end and we don't know the struggle. All of you guys have struggled. Like, we know this, we sit there and we help you. So I think this is really awesome. What is your plans for this idea? Are you going to make a full game out of it? Are you going to start your own company? What do you want to do with this idea?
I'm greatly considering turning this into a full-on game. I have a few contexts in mind if I'm going to put together a team for this, or possibly switch engines if I want it to look nicer.
Oh, I'm all for this. You don't need to switch engines, man. If you're awesome in Construct, just keep doing it.
That's true. Yeah, like this whole thing has been like a saga. So there's something real nice about like having some closure finally.
Okay, looks like we have a question from Norman.
Wow. Like, you switch from engines. I mean, I'm surprised you're using like Construct, because that's like the most easiest engine in my opinion. I mean, no offense with Unity and Unreal, but like, it reminds me of other games. I know like maybe Child of Light, if you play Child of Light, because you're using the mouse function to have your companion of it. And it reminds me of other games because you're using different layers, like from shadow to real view, you know what I mean? It reminds me of Waterland or Virtual Boy, which I'm sorry, you cannot play that because I own a Virtual Boy. It's not around, but like unique. But like, I got nothing to say, but I hopefully see this go, because I'm just so surprised you made this in Construct. I mean, I'm just throwing some games that reminds me of it, but overall, very good though.
Thank you, Norman. Professor Portillo?
Dylan, long time no see, no talk. I originally saw this project in my GA 105 class when you first created for the pixel art portion of the course. I didn't realize how far you're going to push and expand upon this. So I guess my only question is, since you've lived and breathed the Construct for quite some time, I was wondering if you can make some tutorials for me so I could put in my class.
It's not a bad idea.
All right, Professor Understiller?
Yes, hello. As a product owner, have you considered going to Greenlight to produce your vertical slice?
I've thought about it, but I feel like the people I would find there, they might not actually know Construct, which the irony being that Construct is seen as like an easier engine, Yeah.
George Portillo, do you have something to add to that? I think everybody comes through the ranks there. They all touch Construct. But what you've captured here is a game that has a lot of fun associated with it, or the possibility of a lot of fun. So I just want to encourage you to consider getting your game produced and allowing the students here who are excited about it to help you do that.
Amen.
Professor Bowling?
Hey there, just wanted to say this is really cool. I mean, this is totally, I feel like, one of the things that's very much in the spirit of, of SIP, in that, you're taking something that's sort of like tried and true and almost like done to death. Platformer is like the most sort of, it's one of those types of game that has such a history, because that's what, used to only be able to be done. And you thought about it just a little bit differently. It's not like diametrically opposed from what's out there. It's just this one little cool thing. And that's enough to make it so unique. And I really think it's awesome. I can't wait to see where you go with it. And I'm glad you're using Construct, because Construct is fantastic. It's an amazing engine. Construct 3, if you switch over to that, they constantly release new stuff. They have all kinds of new stuff. Every week they release new stuff. So I would suggest, if you do develop it, continue using Construct, because it's really cool and easy. So good on you, man.
Thank you.
And Dylan, I want to reiterate something that Professor Moore included in the chat feature. Is it's great to include the process from concept to completion. That's something that I advocate for all my students. It's great to see the finale, even on websites and your final project. However, it's great to see the critical thinking process that goes behind the scenes, because that allows the potential employer, to see how you solve the problem. So kudos on that. Well done. Okay. Thank you, Dylan. Okay, so now we're going to move on.
Thanks, everybody.
Oh, you're welcome, Dylan. Now we're going to move on to our next presenter, Tucker Baskett, who is a double major in game art and animation and game design.
Today's project is not about a flower, but about an animation effect instead. First, let's talk about my technical field. My background is game art, animation, and design with a bit of programming skills. This is very important because it has a lot to do with how the project runs. Let's break down this project starting from one of my basic drafts. So I came up with this idea of creating a game that has a pop-up book kind of feel with kind of flashcard animations. It was kind of a unique idea, and to show it, I kind of started off with this. So this is some prior work I've worked on, some of the concept art and designs of where I have started working on this project. And as you can see, I've gotten a character, some sort of layout for a level design and whatnot, a good area to actually test this artistic design. This slide, I used a character I've been working on from my book. Also have the sketch of how the pop effect. So I figured on how it would work is I would have to do all the turnarounds needed for the poses in the right direction. And then I would have, after I do that, I would have to do the transitions needed for the pop-up itself to get this thing started. After I got all my assets together, I was able to come up with this for a level. You can see all the idle animations here in the center, and you can see all the animations being put in a web using Unity's animator. It got really chaotic really fast, but it gave me an idea of exactly how this thing would work. And the reason why there were so many animations, because this is really, really important, this thing, is when I was using the animator, I could not find idle state. So I had to make an animation that was the idle state. I also had to make the controller transition in the middle. So you would play the animation. The animation is playing from the first idle. It plays in the center of the playing animation. The character moves, then he comes back up while the animation is still playing, but the shift happened in the center. This is very important because then you have your movement, you have the transition of it going down, you have the transition of it going up, and then back to another idle so that it doesn't continuously transition, because otherwise you have this looping animation for no reason and it looks really bad. So to fix that, I had to have idle animation. Okay, during this video, you will see the transitions happening as I click on all 4 tabs. Starting with, you'll see the transition of tabs starting from the top to the left, from the left to the right, from the right to the bottom. I think for the first demonstration, the timing's a little bit off, but for the second demonstration, I finally was able to get the timing correctly. You could see the transitions happening appropriate as they should. Target market. The target market, I plan on it being targeted on PC and mobile if possible. The age is about 8 to 10, or people that just like stories and retro games. Thank you for allowing.
Thank you, Tucker.
That
Well
felt
done.
rough.
Questions for Tucker? Professor
Yeah,
Portillo?
so
Oh, sorry. Professor Portillo?
Jesus, Matt, be patient.
like I got any of that.
Tucker, good stuff, man. I mean, every time, I would see you on campus, you were just in the grind of things, man. I knew you were exhausted, but you kept on pushing through and you managed to get all the animations going up and down, obviously all cardinal directions. So great job in doing so. I'm just curious to see where you're going to take this. I think, your particular art style really aligns well with this pop-up effect. Are you thinking of maybe implementing other gameplay features such as puzzles that you can utilize this pop-up effect for?
Yeah, I've actually been thinking about that a lot. I've been writing a book about the storyline. I've actually published one piece of it, and I've been continue working on it to where it meets and runs into this game. For the puzzles, it kind of explains within the storyline, so I'll just kind of throw out how it kind of works. Is the story is just about all these different flowers that do different things, and in the game, you're gonna be using different methods to get rid of these flowers, and you'll probably have different methods because to make cures. Ugh. Because these flowers cause different little pandemics, which is kind of awkward with everything going on. But considering we're in the middle of a pandemic, this was a little bit before then. Yeah.
Okay, Professor Marquardt?
All right, so you might see a theme here with how I ask my questions, but I'm always interested in how you came up with your idea. So how did you come up with this before you even started?
So how did I come up with this? I really one day I literally woke up and I wanted to make a kid's book. And I started working on it and I was like, well, how can I just put this in a game? And I'm like, all right, well, I know how to make a controller and whatnot. And so I started there. And then as I presented, I'm like, well, it can't be just art style alone. And I'm like, okay, what do kids like? What did I like? And I was like, pop-up books. How do I do this? And then it started from there. So it just got more advanced, and I could see the flashcards happening in my head. I'm like, I used to when the teacher would do like ask, what can you solve the problem on these flashcards? And just that way of popping and the pull tabs both just kind of merged in my head, and I started working on it from there pretty much.
That's awesome, Tucker. Professor Understiller?
Thank you. Hi, Tucker. I know that you worked really hard on your project, a lot of hours there. And as a game artist, you have to wear different hats. Certainly you're the designer on the project as well. But when you put on that programmer hat in this last few weeks, can you tell us a little bit about what you learned?
Oh, I learned a whole lot. For one, I started programming about 7 years ago. It was about when I first learned about programming, and it was in Unity during JavaScript times. And I knew more about Booleans than I did about integers and other things. So I had worked with it with Booleans, and I did not know this was really a very old style now. But by the time I was done, I had 100,000 lines of just code, Booleans. It got crazy. And thanks to Hugh, he helped me figure out, hey, why don't you use integers? And I was like, I have never used integers. And so there was a learning experience there, but I learned how important integers are now. That was amazing. So.
That's awesome, Tucker.
Sharon Tucker.
All right, looks like Norman, would you like to add a comment?
Yeah, Tucker, I mean, been close friends with you, seeing you hitting on everything that you work on for your SIP, some positives and we some negatives, but like, you know, like I'm proud. I'm holding off those tears, but like, you know, kudos to you. You know, I hope we make it to graduation.
Oh, we'll make it, Norman. We'll make it.
We'll make it too, you know. Oh, I wish I wanted to present, but you know, kudos to you. You know, seeing you working that hard, and you know, than me and such. Even you going 1 a.m. Kudos to that. You know, congrats.
Thank you, Norman, for adding that for Tucker. That's appreciated.
I had a quick comment.
All righty, Brian?
Yes.
So, Tucker, I remember back when I was actually living at the dorm, I'd be coming down to the commons at like 12 a.m. Actually, it was closer to probably 9 o'clock, but you'd be there. I remember you would be working on the comic. And then when we needed to go work on other things, you were always like, oh, I got to work on this. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I remember you would stay up like really late working on it. And then we'd try to contact you in the afternoon and we would never hear from you until like a few hours later, just because you would work so hard on the comic. So good luck, dude. I'm proud of you.
Thank you, Brian.
That's very sweet. Thank you so much, Tucker. There's a lot of love coming towards you, so well done. Thank you. Now we'll go ahead and continue on with our last presenter for game, which is Daniel Ballesteros for Game Art and Animation.
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Ballesteros and my SIP project is called 2D Animations for 3D Characters. My technical field is Game Art and Animation, and my project consists of making a rig inside Maya that emulates the characteristics of all cartoons such as the Looney Tunes, which means crazy animations, eyes popping in and out of the sockets, eyes turning into hearts, and hearts floating around the character. The reason for this project is I'm a huge fan of the Looney Tunes, Roger Rabbit, and all those cartoons. And lately, it's like I haven't seen that type of animation done in cartoons. And when talking about games, well, it's even rare to see that kind of stuff. There have been some Looney Tunes games, one in 2007 and the other one in 2018. Acme Arsenal was released in 2007, but didn't show a lot of facial animation. Most of the characters seem pretty soulless compared to their 2D counterparts. After that one, we got World of Mayhem, released in 2018. And even though they have 11 years of difference, World of Mayhem doesn't really show a big improvement on the facial animation. When comparing these two games to the 2012 film Daffy's Rhapsody, there is a huge difference on the way the characters look and behave. They resemble more the 2D counterparts. While doing some research, I came across Christian Smith ArtStation, and he talks about making Daffy and how in order to make it look and behave like Daffy took a lot of work from more than one artist, giving us a little insight on how hard it is to do these types of animations. For my project, I decided to do a combination of blend shapes on the face and in the eyes in order to achieve an old cartoon type of vibe. A blend shape is a deformer that lets you change a surface into the shape of another surface. This is typically used in the gaming and the film industry for facial animation. For this project, I ended up using a total of 20 blend shapes for the face and 12 for each of the eyes. Where the industry is going. Epic Games released a plugin for Maya, 3ds Max, etc., and it's called the Unreal Live Link plugin. Live Link is a plugin that allows you to edit your animations externally, like in Maya, 3ds Max, or whatever you're using, and you can see a preview of your work in Unreal Engine, and you can see that in real time. Also, something really cool that I thought I would mention is that motion capture systems can also use Unreal Live Link. Not only that, Epic Games also released the Unreal Live Face app for selected iPhone devices. You have to have a device with depth camera and ARKit capabilities. This allows performers to record facial animation sitting on their desk instead of having to wear the whole mocap suit. As Live Link Face includes a head and neck rotation data as part of the facial tracking in order to allow more freedom of movement for the digital avatars. Sadly for me, I saw this kind of late, so I couldn't really add it into my project. After doing some research and looking around, it is really, really cool. I'm actually gonna try to download it in my own computer and see if I can run it so that I can work further with Coco using this new system. And that's it for my presentation. Now, let me show you my C project.
Thank you, Daniel. Fun video to watch. Professor Portillo?
All the times I see that, I always laugh. Daniel, it's a good job, and kind of recreating that, man. That's awesome. So you face a lot of technical challenges, when tackling your SIP here. I know you had some issues with lighting inside of the Unreal Engine, even getting some of your animations to work as well. Can you kind of speak on how you kind of tackled those challenges?
Well, when I first started working on the project, I didn't really know much about lighting. So, as a newbie, I was like, that looks pretty good. But after the feedback, I was like, you know what, I can actually do better. So I started looking at tutorials. Oh, fuck.
So Daniel, a friendly reminder that you are on air.
Oh, well, I am so sorry about that. Somebody called me and they said that the call was ending. So I was like, anyways, let me go back to my story. So yeah, I went over and looked for some tutorials and I was like, I can do better. So I got a moon moving and better lighting after, I think like I had like one extra semester and I took some lighting classes so I could actually do a lot better. But in the animation side, like I'm not an animator. I am gonna keep trying, but I don't think that's gonna be my main focus. So definitely it was a lot of help with Professor Lin. And yeah, just, every single day keep working on it. So yeah, it was a lot of pain. And I'm sorry for what I said earlier.
You said fun. All right, Professor Marquardt.
Thanks for adding the humor on multiple levels. My favorite part in the video was when it went, that was awesome. So anyway, my question to you were talking about this new technology that you weren't able to use. Actually, that's pretty interesting to kind of throw that into your SIP, saying, this technology I wasn't able to use. What do you think you might do with that? Are you going to explore that and continue to go with that?
Yes. So I have a little video in my I have a link in my references and all that, and you can see how it works. So basically you can, whatever you're doing in Maya, it's going to translate to Unreal in real time. So I would really like to maybe extend this scene, maybe do something different. And I would love to maybe get some more like, have you seen like in the Looney Tunes, like all like the neck stretching a lot, like all those kind of, I would like to add more animation, but like old school. But I know that at the moment we're using the blend surface was a lot of work. So I think that using that, I could actually get it to look a lot better. And I don't know, I'll just like to keep building on it.
Professor Understiller?
Thank you. Daniel, great outcome on that. I think that's the first time I've seen that director cut. I know how concerned you were about making it look perv, so I hope we got away from that enough for you. The question that I have for you is based on what you had just said, which was interesting, that you don't consider yourself an animator after all that work. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, please?
Well, I mean, I do consider myself an animator, but if I were to, if you, how can I explain this? It's a love-hate relationship because don't get me wrong, I had a lot of fun at some point, but figuring out it was a lot. So I don't know. I'm gonna keep trying just to see how far I can get. But if you were to be like, hey, do you want to work as an animator? I'll be like, nope. It's something that I would like to keep as a hobby, and in that area.
Well, I know you went through a lot of phases of grief, and you learned quite a bit about rigging and animation. And some of the technology is just breaking for what you want to do. So I do hope that you go on, test that technology, and have a good time with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love Raylan's comment, animators unite. Well done, Daniel. Thank you so much for your presentation. So that concludes the game art animation, game programming, game design, VR majors. Now we are moving forward to artificial intelligence and advancing computer science. So next we have Bradley Chavez, and he is a double major in ACS and network security.
This is HackScored. It's a simple yet powerful Discord bot for the utilization of tools commonly used in the network security field, along with a few others. With just one command to start it, there's no reason not to love it. No more struggling to set up a Linux machine or trying to find out if a tool is compatible with Windows. Just one command and you're done. And it's even more simple for other users within the server that this bot is hosted in. with only a Discord account that's needed and a basic knowledge of the platform. To utilize everything, simply type in the specified prefix, which can be found in the package.json file in the command you want to run, like this ping command, which gives you your latency to the bot. Want to crack a password hash? Let John the Ripper do all the work for you and show off all the results to everyone else within the server. No more having to export the results of a tool you've just ran to a file and send that file off to others time and time again. Or better yet, want to find information on how many times a certain password has been compromised, like password? Use the have I been pwned command, which utilizes the have I been pwned API to query and display the results to you. And this is all for more than just experts. Anyone at any skill level can use it. While it technically was originally meant for teams of experts, it has slowly evolved into something for everyone. If you wanted to do something such as finding out information about a machine accessible to the public internet through Shodan and didn't know where to start, then there's a simple solution through Hacksword for you. By just adding the help argument after any command, you'll be given a comprehensive description of the tool, arguments that could be used with the command, and external resources to learn more about that specific tool. But how do I know all the commands in the first place, you may ask? Well, through the commands command, of course, which will list out all the available commands to you. As you can see, there are currently around 15 different types of tools implemented into this project. But as we all know, as time goes on, new tools come along and current ones slowly fall out of date and stop getting updated. Due to this, myself and hopefully some others will constantly update the tools within this project, removing the old ones and replacing them with new ones that give similar results. And even if there is a tool that you really want to use, but it hasn't been implemented yet, you have the freedom to go and add it yourself. When Hacksword was first being built, it was made in a way so that a new tool can be implemented in the matter of minutes. Myself and my partner, David Osted, designed it this way because we knew we couldn't satisfy everyone with just the tools that we were able to implement. And this gets into another thing of how was Hacksword built? Well, Hacksword was built off the Node.js runtime library, leveraging many libraries along the way such as Discord.js and Axios. All of the different commands are based on modules, allowing them to be loaded dynamically, which also leads into another advantage of being able to limit users to certain tools/commands. Since a lot of the tools within this project can be intrusive to the local network that's hosted off of, the bot owner has the ability to adjust exactly who has access to what tool at any time, majorly reducing the chance that it could be abused. Furthermore, when building this project, a big issue was that the only way to run it first was on Linux. And since this didn't comply with our final goal of this being for everyone, we had to come up with a solution. This solution being Docker. Docker is a virtualization platform that allows for operating systems environments, like Linux, to run on systems that generally wouldn't support them, like Windows or Mac OS. Through Docker's implementation into this project, it has allowed for it to be hosted on nearly every operating system and can be easily tuned if one doesn't work perfectly through the provided install script. Oh, and did I mention the install scripts? Well, another big part of this project was making it as simple as possible for the user to set it up. And we did so by automating the whole setup and startup process through bash scripts since they natively run on most Linux systems. And saving the best part for last, it's free and open source. So in no way will you ever be limited to what you could do with this project, only by your imagination. And I hope that as time goes on, that others will contribute to it as well. Thank you.
Very impressive, Bradley. Thank you. All right, questions from Professor Mason Galatas?
Hey, Brad. Yeah, I had the pleasure working with you from the very beginning on this, and I always sound like a broken record when students come to do their SIP stuff. I say, develop a prototype, right? Find a programming language, get an IDE, figure out what APIs you're using. If you're getting something off GitHub or a fork or whatever, do it now and start. Didn't have to do that with Brad. He already had a prototype day one, and he already had enough functionality where I was like, what's he going to do for the next 2.5 years? That sort of situation. So, back and forth, he kept adding more and more functionality, and it was a little bit hamstrung with the limitation to Linux. And then when he Dockerized it and made it capable to do Windows, I was, my head exploded, and it's just like so many things were rolled into this. It was super impressive, and it just started out, fantastic, and ended up even more fantastic. So kudos to you. So what's next? It's out there. It's open. I mean, I feel like it should get promoted or something. It should be advertised or marketed. I don't know. What do you think's next, Bradley?
Thank you, Mason. And the next kind of steps are adding it to just adding kind of more tools to it, implementing more stuff into it. Right now, there's new tools I'm constantly finding every day that I want to add to it. I unfortunately haven't had much time. And like you said, marketing. Yes, that is something I kind of plan on doing. I'm kind of more of hoping that it just gains popularity by itself. People see my GitHub, look at it and like, oh, that's cool, and share it with others, and yada, yada.
Or possibly even a future UAT collab from students, going forward. Maybe they'll add to it and it'll just keep growing and growing.
Yeah, that'd be great also.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Dr. Jill Coddington?
Yes, I wanted to piggyback on that because I was going to ask about the open source, and where besides GitHub are you promoting this and or making it accessible to others?
Currently, it is only available via GitHub. I have a GitHub repository on my main account, but I am planning to make host it through Docker, since on Docker you can compile it yourself essentially and host it through there as well. So they could just search for the Docker image and pull that instead of going through GitHub. And other than that, there's not really much other places right now I have in mind, but if there is any other place where you feel it would be great to market this, please let me know.
Well, Dr. Smith might have something because the BTM people are working on marketing and they're really, really good at it. So might be another resource for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Great job.
Thank you, Dr. Coddington. Any other questions for Bradley? Very impressive, Bradley. Well done. Great example of what's possible within your major in ACS and network security. So congrats. Okay, now we're moving along to the next presenter, Dylan Crockett, who is a double major in ACS and artificial intelligence.
Hello, my name is Dylan Crockett, and my SIP project is IoT.io. I'm an advancing computer science and artificial intelligence major here at UAT, and my SIP mostly focuses on the ACS side of my 2 degrees. So my innovation claim for my SIP is that it is an open source Python IoT management library for designing IoT solutions and systems. So what exactly does that mean? So it's a tool for building IoT systems. So say you wanted to create custom internal measuring devices for temperature, etc., or you want to create a consumer end facing like light or any of these other IoT devices. It's a system designed to help make that process easier. So it's designed to be easy to implement without any prior knowledge of IoT development, though it does help if you know some kind of IoT development or you're familiar with embedded systems. That will help in using this and implementing it. It's also open source, like I said, so it's open source under the MIT license. This means you are able to use it for commercial projects, you can use it for open source projects. It's available to anybody who wants to use it and then implement it in their own stuff, and there's no restrictions on that other than like the other stuff that's listed on the MIT license. And it's also written in Python, so a very popular language now. The backend of the actual framework for the server side is written in Python, which is a very popular server-side language for a lot of this kind of stuff and interfacing with databases. So I chose to write it in Python. There are client libraries available in other languages, and the standard can be implemented in other ones, but my system is mostly focused on Python. So how does it work? I'm just going to go over a brief little graphic here that describes how the actual system works. So you have your client, which would be your IoT device or sensor or anything like that. And you have your manager, which is the server endpoint for your client. And my system is designed to make that connection process very easy, as well as make it where there's very little overhead for the actual implementation for the people who are using my library. So what happens is the client will connect, and then the manager will initiate a WebSocket connection with the client, and then through that WebSocket, the client is able to give information to the manager, as well as once that information is provided and it's all correct and it checks out, then the WebSocket is then used as a two-way communication protocol between the client and the server to pass information. So you can do multiple different things with the client after that point. So some useful features from my system, which I think are important and make it unique compared to some other stuff out there, even though it's already pretty unique. So first of all, there's automatic connection and disconnection detection. So when a device connects or disconnects, the server is able to notify and run some sort of process, say like notify the user that their device is disconnected or has connected, stuff like that. So that's a useful thing. It also supports multiple different device types. So say you have a light and a lock and a smart speaker all on the same app or whatever program you're developing, then it's easy to implement these different device types without them conflicting with each other. There's also the real-time two-way communication, which is a big plus, and it's a big drawback of a lot of other IoT frameworks out there that are frameworks, I should say, that are designed for IoT but not necessarily limited to IoT. But it is a big plus of using the WebSockets, and that's why I chose to use them for my project. And event-style messaging system. So this basically just means that there's a very intuitive and easy-to-use messaging system for sending and notifying the client and sending and notifying the server, so you can handle specific things when they happen and handle them a certain way and know what kind of data you're getting. So let's move on. So the next thing I'm going to show off here is an example application that I built using my own library. So I'm switching over to my view here so you can see me. Hello. I'm going to put my camera up because the important thing is not me, but my lights, which are running the client of the IoT manager. So they're connecting to a server running my SIP codes, my library. And here, this website also interfaces with that, so I'm able to control the lights. So here I can see a little interface, and when I change the color of the lights, they actually change right behind me. So I can keep changing colors here, as well as say I go back to blue. I can also change the brightness. I can make them brighter. I can make them really dim. I even have the option to go and then turn them off here, so it gets really dark. But you can see that it's implementing real-time communication, and the way that's done is via my manager, the library that I built, so the IoT.io library. And then you can also see here's a little green dot, which tells me that the device is connected. And then if I go over here to this other room, you can see that this one's red because it's disconnected. So it's able to determine if the device is connected or not, and then notify the user, hey, your device is connected, hey, it's not connected. So those are the core principles, and showing that it's working on an actual IoT device that I built myself, that I actually use, and that it's, I can't show the code right now, but I can show that it works and it's actually running the thing that I said I built. So it is working. So that pretty much wraps up my portion of the presentation and my demo. So now I'm gonna switch back over to my Chrome view. And here we go. So that's pretty much it. So any questions from any of the SMEs? And then I've got my links here. So this is my SIP website link I'm going to point to. This is the PyPy page for the server side of the library, and then the PyPy for the Python version of the client. So this is where you can go install it. It has references to my GitHub as well as the source code. So these will be up there, and you can then use pip to install the packages if so desired. And that pretty much wraps it up for me. So thank you, everybody. And that's the end of my presentation. Have a good one.
Well done, Dylan. Nice job. Okay, we have a question from Dr. Coddington.
Yes, I wanted to ask, what applications do you see besides like dancing holiday tree lights and your cool lights in your room? What applications do you see in the commercial world for this?
So the main use would be anytime you want a IoT device that requires two-way communication. So oftentimes, say you have a sensor in the field that measures temperature or humidity, all these different things. Usually they don't receive any data from the server, or they don't react in any kind of way to the data they're receiving. This offers a way for the server to then go back and say, hey, real time, do some action. Say you have a motor you want to run, or anytime, it basically allows whenever you process that data, it allows you to make a response, and that response to instantly happen. So say, for example, it's an actual entire house system, and you have all these light sensors, and you do have normal bulbs connected. You could say when the time, or when the the light. So there's a light sensor in the house. It detects a certain amount of light. It automatically turns off your incandescent bulbs. So you're not wasting power, stuff like that.
So automation of the home and making sure that you can get feedback forth and back.
Exactly, and making sure that it's real time, so that way it's responsive, and there's actual real time communication happening.
Wonderful, nice job.
Thank you.
Hey, Dylan, I got a quick question. Does that include control of your heating and cooling as well?
So the library itself doesn't add any of the functionality for the IoT device. All it does is provide the communication standard. So I could define some method for saying communicate with this thermostat device. I could say I could have a microcontroller that's controlling a thermostat. I could communicate to that microcontroller, set the temperature, and then it could then process the data I sent it and say change the temperature. So basically, it allows the method for communication, but not any specific control standard. So you can control it however you want, but the communication is done by the library.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good job.
Thank you.
Professor Prater?
Okay, cool. It's great. It's a great process, a great setup. My question is, are the LEDs all group addressed or are they individually addressed?
So the ones in my room that I have are individually addressable. So for example, in the controller I have in my room, I have multiple different presets for different effects. And like I got a rainbow one. The ones I just showed were static, so that way it didn't go crazy in my background. But you can define what kind of data gets passed. Like say I want to create a rainbow effect, I can say, hey, activate the rainbow effect on the microcontroller and we'll start running the rainbow effect, stuff like that. So it allows you to predefine events that will happen when I tell you to do something and then trigger those events from the server.
Excellent, good deal. And then the other thing, so you'll pass along how to run these things so we can know how to do the IoT lab?
The ones in the lab right now, I'm pretty sure are really outdated. I've done a lot of work over the past three or 4 months on this, so I'll definitely make sure to go in and update all those and make sure they're as cool as the ones I have in my room.
Excellent, and then pass the knowledge around.
Yes, make sure to pass down the knowledge.
Excellent. Well, wonderful. Thanks, Dylan.
Yep.
Thank you, Dylan. That's a lot of hard work. We appreciate it. Okay, any other questions for Dylan? All right, congrats, Dylan.
Oh, I think there was a question in the chat.
Oh.
Could also have an AI tied with this, so you could have an AI. Yeah, so for example, if you wanted to collect different information, so you wanted to have an AI automate your house, so it learns when you're home, you can have a bunch of different sensors that, like IR sensors, which would be able to detect the motion or the resonant heat from your body in your house and detect when you're home. And then it could learn, hey, he's home throughout these hours, so I'm gonna turn the lights off when he's not home, or something like that. So you could feed the AI data using the method that I implemented. So in a way, yes.
Thank you for answering that question in the chat, Dylan.
Yep.
All right, appreciate it. Now we're moving on to our last presenter in Artificial Intelligence and ACS, Nathan Carr, who is an ACS major.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nathan Carr. I'm an ACS student here at UAT, and I'll be presenting on my SIP titled Cranial Crack. What is Cranial Crack? Cranial Crack is a Python program that analyzes your emotions in real time and helps determine your Myers-Briggs personality type. It does this through computer vision, which, if you're unfamiliar, computer vision is just where a computer discerns information from an image or video. Now, Cranial Crack also needs an interface. And what do I mean by this? It needs something like a game or a quiz, something to feed it information. I was originally inspired to do this project because of two things: UIT's Thinking Strategies course and my own experiences with depression and anxiety. Thinking Strategies allowed me to explore the different ways people, including myself, think, such as how they analyze, reason, and solve problems. Combining this with the knowledge of how people react emotionally to certain stimulation allows you to take a step back and grasp a deeper understanding not only yourself, but of the world around you. My depression and anxiety, while still around today, were greatly helped by this new view, and I wanted to create a way for people to explore that possibility. This project is innovative because it provides users with a personality and emotion analysis, allowing them to explore and understand different personality types and emotional reactions. Now, in the beginning, I started off far too ambitious for this project. I had very big expectations for it and myself. I wanted to do a 3D game with Tobii eye tracking for some nice nuanced player data, but obviously this came with some issues. First off, it was far too large for the scope of a single person. I could not get my hands on a Tobii eye tracker, and I'd also never developed a game before, which is some pretty big hurdles to overcome. So when it came down to it, I had to adapt and pivot. I cut down my own expectations and pivoted off the original idea. I dropped 3D and attempted to go 2D, but after that failed, I dropped that and went to CLI just for simplicity. I dropped eye tracking and swapped it out for emotion detection, simply because of its accessibility to me. And I also included a Myers-Briggs personality test just to buff out the analysis a little more. And after I made these decisions, the project became much, much more manageable. We will return shortly after this small demo.
Alright, so we're over at the code now. I've also got my camera up just to show you that it is working, because it is required for this application. As this application goes, as it runs, it's going to analyze my face. It's going to ask me 4 questions that I will answer, and it will produce 4 images over here and print out my personality type, which we will write down for later. If I run this here real quick, it's going to initialize the video capture and ask me my first question. Where do I draw my power from? Do I draw it from within or from beyond? And this is a comparison to the extrovert versus introvert. And I draw my power from within, and I hit enter, and I hold the ESC key to move to the next question. Do I learn by doing, or do I learn by watching? I definitely learn better by watching. Now let me move to the next one. Guide my decisions, thoughts or feelings, definitely feelings. And this kind of like gobbledygook output you're seeing is the emotion detection. So let me enter on that one, move ourselves to the next room. And how do you display yourself, as ordered or flexible? I definitely try to make myself appear as ordered. Alrighty, and hold the S key to end the program, and cool. As you can see, it spits out our type here and just a list. And we've also got our results for the first 4 rooms.
Alright, now that we're out of the demo, I have some example return data up on screen. It's got 4 graphs, and each of the graphs just shows your detected emotions while you're answering the questions, and a return personality type, which is comprised of 4 categories returned from each question. We'll explore this a little more on the next slide. On this slide, we have a Myers-Briggs personality type indicator chart. On the left and right-hand sides, we have the Myers-Briggs personality categories, along with the associated cranial crack questions. I really felt these questions boiled down the essence of each category selection, and feel free to double check me on them by reading through. In the middle, we have different personality types, which you can also compare our return data to. I really felt that the addition of emotional analysis to a standard Myers-Briggs allowed us to not only look at what the user answered, but how they answered. Thank you for listening. This has been my presentation. I will now take questions.
Thank you, Nathan. Well done. Any questions for Nathan?
Thank you.
Professor Coddington? Professor Coddington, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I just wondered how you would recommend integrating this into the standard Myers-Briggs to make the standard Myers-Briggs even better than it is.
I mean, it is kind of already there because my interface is a standards Myers-Briggs question list, just boiled down to the very minimum just because of how much time I had. But you could make this a much larger scale and typical Myers-Briggs with like the standard 93 questions and go through it and just add those as the interface. So it's kind of the system, like you could just add more questions already and make it a full-fledged Myers-Briggs if you wanted to. You could also even make a 2D game and feed the info through that if you wanted to. So.
Okay, looks like we have a question by Professor Prater.
Gotta unmute myself too. First of all, fantastic project. I love it. The thing that I love most about it is your ability to pivot. Pivoting is a thing that we have to do in our daily lives and in our projects, and you show how to do that, which is fantastic. I love that. Other thing I want to say is I wish you had gotten a hold of a Toby. I have a Toby, attached to my Alienware where it follows my eyes and it predicts.
Oh yeah.
Click on something. Oh, it is incredible. It's like a part of me when I'm on that computer. It's fantastic. I wish you had gotten one because it's fantastic.
Oh, I mean, me as well. I mean, if I could have gotten my hands on that, the more like, I guess it might not be the right word, but the more nuanced data I could get from a user would be just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it literally predicts where you're going to go from your eye movements, and it does better than you know. So me myself thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to go over here. Oh no, it knows I don't want to go over there. I want to go over here, and it chooses it for it. It's fantastic. Very good, very very good.
Well, thank you,
Professor Markwood.
Yeah, so actually I had the same question that I saw Dr. Bowman put into the chat. So I'm just going to read his words because, he's more eloquent than me. He said, did you test this on an audience to compare the people's known personality preference test results?
Unfortunately, I am an introvert and a loner a bit, so I didn't get to talk to many other people. So I mainly spent a lot of time reading through a lot of psychological papers, a lot of different studies on Myers-Briggs to just, like I said, like really boil down the essence of the choice. Since I knew I wouldn't get a lot of, I guess, people data, I tried to really hit home with what the analysis is supposed to do.
Any other questions for Nathan?
I just got one for Nathan. Hey, good job, Nathan. I really like that. Obviously, the coding appeals to me big time, so good job on that. Did you think about even applying this to like DISC, which similar to Myers-Briggs but uses less questions?
I actually didn't know about that. If you'd mind sending me that, I'd love to read about it.
Okay, no problem, no problem. Also, I was thinking about for the eye tracking in that. Also, we cover a lot of that in the artificial intelligence courses where we do the facial recognition and eye tracking. That might be another option to do the eye tracking, and it uses your standard Python code and libraries as well.
Oh, that'd be perfect then. Yeah, that's kind of like where I'd want to stick. Python is really comfortable.
Yeah, I can send you those as well, but really good job. I really like it, and really nice, clean application. It's a good job.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nathan. It's also very, important to talk about mental health and wellness, especially in these trying times. So I appreciate you tackling such a difficult topic. Well done on that. All right, everyone, that concludes artificial intelligence and advancing computer science. We are now going to go on a short break from 1:50 to 2 o'clock. Please make sure that you're jotting down your notes for your Viewer's Choice Award so that way you can vote via Socrative.com. The instructions are right there on the screen. So we'll come back exactly at 2 with our cyber majors. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Fall 2020 SIP Showcase. We're continuing our demonstrations from our students. We just concluded Artificial Intelligence and ACS, so congrats and thank you to all of those that presented. Well done. Now we are moving forward to network security, network engineering, and tech forensics. Our next presenter is an online student who is under the guidance of Dr. Kathleen Dunley, and it's Juan Rivera, and he is a network security major.
Hello, my name is Juan Rivera, and I am here to discuss an evolving issue within today's networking world. Cyber attacks are indiscriminate. They can affect anyone or any business size, no matter what the company is, from hospitals to simple small family markets. 43% of cyber attacks target small businesses, costing an average of $34,604. This was in the year of 2018 alone. Some of the leading causes of cyber attacks come from negligent employees or third-party mistakes. We can all understand that not everyone is well versed with networking terms and skills. It would not be practical to train every employee or person to be an expert in network security. Regardless, all it can take is one misclick, 1 second of carelessness, or one method of getting in. Unfortunately for the person on the other side of the screen, an employee is such a path. With the world shifting towards an open mind for remote workplaces, it is important for both employees and employers to reinforce any security measures in place and to retrain employees on how to avoid common cyber attack methods. However, in order to tackle the problem overall, it is necessary to explain the very basics in such a manner so any individual can understand them. Parrot Network Security Software, or PNSS for short, aims to be a simple tool for the everyday individual to get their foot into networking. Using a simple interface, the user can easily follow along and even look at what exactly the program is doing. The program also features links towards tools the user can look into and other websites that can help those who want to learn more into the subject. PNSS scans the user's network by obtaining their router's MAC address and comparing it to a MAC database. It then gives the user information about their router and instructions on how to access it. Once they access the router's login page, they can obtain valuable information such as managing ports for personal use and the model name. They can then put this information into the tool to see what vulnerabilities may be affecting their devices. PNSS hopes to leave the user with a new understanding of what they came to learn and give them a path on where to go next. Being built on Python gives it the ability to easily add more information to the program, as well as stay completely free. The prospect of it being open source would allow information to be freely added, so any new information that is important in the subject can be added by anyone. Additional features such as a strong password creator can be added with ease as well. The end goal is that PNSS will help individuals looking to start informing themselves about networking get a good start and teach them the basics of security measures. With more information about us being poured into the internet each passing day, having more open avenues to teach the basics about internet security and providing a base foundation of knowledge in the subject will mitigate cybercrime. Thank you.
That's a great logo at the end of your presentation, Juan. Questions for Juan? We have one from Professor Mason Galatas.
Hey Juan, first off, I'd like to say nice job. Anything that simplifies security is aces in my book. I didn't have the luxury of working with you the whole time because you're online, but I can tell you lots of people don't secure their home Wi-Fi routers, and it's one of the topics we talk about in 103, NTS 103. I was curious how you went about it. It said MAC address, and I was curious what options we had and what libraries or APIs you were using in order to make this connection with the router. I got a bunch of questions. What all routers is it compatible with, and is this on a GitHub or something like that? So that's 3 questions at once. So feel free to answer 1 or 2 or however many you can.
So real quick, I can be heard, right?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, so the routers that are compatible would be just about any of them, because so what my program does is it scans the MAC address OUI from the command line and it compares it to a national MAC database. It uses the identifiers to bring the manufacturer, and then from there the user will be told how to access their router step by step. And from that point, they can get their model numbers from the gateway address and input it into a little search box, which will then cut out their model into a text file that will show which vulnerabilities may have been affected or are currently being affected.
Okay. Is it currently open source, or do you have it on a GitHub or any way of distributing it, or is it just under your lock and key?
Yeah, it'll be open source. I currently have it on a GitLab, and I'm planning on putting it also on my GitHub just in case.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, one of the other things I was thinking some other functionalities, maybe changing default IP address. I saw that you could change passwords and you had a password generator, which are nice touches, but by also changing that default IP, you threw a lot of people off your trail, right? Everybody's looking for 192.168.1.1 or something like that. If you change that up to a different private IP, that would be helpful. But yeah, nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Juan? Nice work, Juan. Thank you so much. And Juan is a great example of the fact that students can take our on-ground and online classes. And speaking of, we are getting ready for our spring 2021 semester. So for those of you that are watching this SIPS showcase and are interested in UAT, make sure that you go to our wonderful website for more information. So thank you, Juan. Good job. We also have Mason. Do you have another question or?
No, sorry, I meant to put my hand down.
No worries, just double
Raise it
checking.
again.
Yeah, we'll raise the roof. All righty, thank you, Juan. Next, we have Jose Ramirez, who is a network security and network engineering major.
Are you tired of manual diagram solutions? Worried about expensive subscriptions? Tired of making the same diagram over and over again? Well, worry not. NetGen is here to help you with your diagramming conundrums. The automated diagramming tool is now public and available for use by anyone and everyone. NetGen is very simple to use. Even a child could do it. Just run the executable. Enter a 1 to create a new diagram, or enter a 2 to configure your own diagram settings. Give it a path to the desired location. Follow the example format. Give the diagram a name, enter a host amount, and voila! NetGen will do the rest of the work. Thank you, NetGen.
Thank you, Infomercial Man. Hello, everyone. My name is Jose Ramirez, and I'm a network security, network engineering student here at UAT. I am also the lead developer for NetGen. Today, I am pleased to announce the full public release of NetGen. For those of you who don't know, NetGen is an automatic diagramming solution for creating network diagrams. With this public release come a few new changes. Let's take a look at what they are.
The GUI has been moved out and has been replaced by a command line menu. The GUI was so broken and unresponsive, I had to just chuck it out the whole project. In the future, I would like to create an image viewing attachment to NetGen. But for now, I will stick with the command line menu. If needed, NetGen can now be ran multiple times without having to reopen the program. A new configuration wizard has been added as well. This will be used to configure the default values for the number of hosts, switches, firewalls, and routers, and any other node added in the future updates. In a future update, I would also like to make more items in the program configurable, such as overlap control, IP address subnets, line color, and node color. This will give a more customized experience to the end user. Everything else in a diagram creation is as... Oh wait, are those IP addresses? That's right, everyone. I have added an algorithm that will try to generate accurate subnetting. It is a temporary solution due to its inaccuracy, but I will be replacing it with a better algorithm in a future update.
As you can see, it is in my roadmap as the second major update for NetGen, alongside bug squashing, Linux compatibility, and a whole update dedicated to customization. A final note, thank you to Sean Belmore and Emmett Rohrbel, my previous teammates. And finally, thank you to everyone else who helped with this project. I'm looking at you, Stack Overflow. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. What a nice presentation. Love the credits at the end. All right, so we have a question from Professor Mason Galatas.
Hey, Jose. First off, nice job. I really feel this project was born straight out of NTW 102 because it's nothing but network diagram, network diagram, network diagram. And you probably got tired of me telling you how important network diagrams are, especially if you have transition in your IT or IS department. Somebody comes in, they have no idea what the heck's going on. I remember when you and Sean were talking about this project, I was honestly trying to get you to not do it because I didn't think it was going to be feasible because of the complexity. But you really kept at it and you kept tweaking things, and it seems like you've even done more since the last time we spoke. So kudos to you for really having a vision and sticking with it, even though I was, waving the flag for you. I'm glad that it's out there on the GitHub, GitHub, and hopefully we can have other folks contribute to it in the future. It looks like you already have a roadmap and a path, so you answered really all of my questions. But yeah, nice job. I just really had comments, so thank you.
Thanks, yeah.
Any other questions for Jose? Jose, I do have a question for you.
Sure, okay.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges and benefits of working on a team?
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, I guess those semesters with Emmett and Sean were a bit messy. I mean, just divvying up the workload and I guess not hogging all the work was kind of hard for me because I usually don't work in a team. So I really I had Sean had a vision. It was originally his project whenever he talked about it, and I just wanted to build it. But I think overall, I think it went well. I wish I had gotten a little bit better with managing what was assigned to who, but sometimes it doesn't work out, and yeah.
I appreciate the transparency. I think it's important for us to understand the complexity of working with others, but also all the wonderful outcomes that can come about working together and learning from each other. So I appreciate your honesty and also just how wonderful the project ended up being.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Jose. Now we'll move on to our next presenter. We have Junsiek Bak, and he is cyber major.
Hello everyone, my name is Junsiek Bak and I'm majoring in network security and network engineering. My SIP title is mission detection. Have you thought about how many times you check your phone daily? According to reviews.org, 66% of Americans check their phones 160 times every day. 1% higher, which is 65% who admit to sleeping with their smartphones at night. Guess how many texts on average person receives a day? According to textrequest.com, on average, American adults sent and received 32 texts per day, totaling 18 billion texts every day, 541 billion texts every month, and 6.5 trillion texts every year. And most of these texts are scammers trying to obtain personal information with the help of fraudulent links. Submission detection is an app that tells you if the URL is safe to open or not. It notifies you via text in a matter of seconds, preventing the launch of the website that can potentially harm your mobile device. This app is simple and efficient. It only takes 2 steps to have the system up and running. Downloading and start the app is all it takes. It will then proceed to send the text that confirms submission detection is protecting your phone. Set permissions to read SMS in Android manifest.xml and set the vibrate permission to inform notification of the content of the text when it arrives. Generates notification channel when the app runs. You need a channel to get an alarm, and it doesn't matter what channel name you use. Check if 2 permission settings are allowed, and if not, display dialog to go to app settings. Register the background service to perform background operations on the Android manifest.xml to determine whether SMS receiver or SMS is submission SMS. Alarm channel class displays various settings for alarms such as group ID and group name of alarm channel. After the setup, the set values are delivered to the notification manager, which is provided by Android, and finally the setup is completed. Com table, edu table, gov table, the URL is encapsulated. So the things that are treated as safe URLs, and those that are not there are classified as unsafe sites. In other words, tables act like a databases. So when the SMS receiver service runs for the first time and receives a message, if the message includes like http or .gov.com.edu, it runs the background service by delivering the text to the background service. In the text body, it will make URL whole through URL extract sub from URL extract. For example, if it was just .google.com, it will make it to https://google.com. But if it came with https and .google.com, it will leave as it is. But using if comment, if the text included like .com, .edu, .gov, the domain check will run, and with all that, the system will start checking with URL stored in each table and check if the URL is the same. So if it matches with URL stored table, the send notification safe will run, but if it doesn't match, send notification not safe will run. And you will get the notification on your phone. But if there is nothing cuff on if comment, it will run the expander network method to access the URL through the HTTP URL connection as background operation. And if no site exists, it will send not found alarm notification to you. If the APK file is attached, it will run the send notification malware method in the notification Java file. And if the if comment is not applicable, it will run the notification not safe method. Also, there is an IP check. If you get an IP address, it will send a notification IP alarm. This is an image that displays what a mobile device will look like when submission detection is running. A text will pop up on the screen displaying the hardest link. By this, the person will immediately know that they should not open or launch this website. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Junsiek. Looks like we have our first question by Professor Mason Galatas.
Yep. So Junsek started with a teammate on a project that had incredibly vast scope. And I kept saying, how are you going to make this work? And questions like that. And they kept going back into the drawing board. And eventually had a couple other ideas. And then he kind of went off on his own and did a whole lot of programming, apparently. Walking through that was basically a verbal data flow diagram of how everything interacts. My only questions are, nice job, of course. My questions are, it's SMS and Android only. Is it available as open source on GitHub or anything like that? And do you think it's possible to adapt to multiple platforms for the future?
So like I really would like to publish this like on public, but since I work this by myself, I don't know if there's any like big problem with my app. Like, I mean, so far I didn't have any problem with my app, but who knows if there's like huge problem. So like I will have to think about the problem if either someone else take this project to like next C projects. So like continue to work on this, or I have to just keep working on by myself and then see if I can publish this on public or not. Like I was trying to like publish on iOS as well, but it was like hard work. Like it needs a lot of time and stuff. So I only decided to do on like Google Play, like the Google Store.
Oh, so it is on the Google Store. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Nice work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Juncia? Thank you very much, Juncia. Your hard work is apparent. Well done. And I'm very grateful for individuals that take on cyber and keep us protected, especially in this very digital climate. So I appreciate your contributions.
Matt, did you have a question?
Oh, there you are. Okay, sorry about that, Mr. Prater. Go ahead.
That's fine. I just wanted to reiterate, iOS is a pain. Swift is terrible to write with. So I can understand your concern, and I appreciate it. I've done a couple of that on Android, and I've been meaning to do iOS, and I've been avoiding it just because it's a pain.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Mr. Prater. Any other questions for Juncia? All right, thank you so much. Okay, now we'll continue with our next presenter, Andrew Maddox, and he is a network security major.
Hello, everyone. This is Andrew Maddox with the SIP Smart House Security Solutions. I am the security team lead for this project, and Keandre is the team lead for the IoT demo house, the primary demo project for this. My technical field and background information. I am currently a network security major on my 8th semester at UAT, a previous CCDC team member, a previous student ambassador, a now full-time employee at Norton LifeLock as a site reliability engineer, or SRE. The reason I pursued the IoT project was because of the experience I would get from it, from the project and the opportunity it presented. The project has involved everything from systems admin experience to network engineering, team management, problem solving, project work delegation, and more. The project was inspired by the lack of IoT security in smaller businesses and home environments. The project description, the IoT environment security team's goal was to provide a security to an IoT environment that emulates the structure of a home/business scenario. So I came up with this idea as a budget solution to network segmentation for home use of IoT networks. You can see the UAT segmented network there, leading to the primary front-facing network, 10.1.1.1/24, as a wireless access point or router with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. That provides all internet access for students, individuals on computers in the robotics lab, etc. Switch delegates internet access to all the wall ports. The IoT network was 10.10.1.1/24. That's also a wireless access point with the similar subnet mask, or the same subnet mask as the other network. And that handled all the IoT devices and primary server communicating with those custom IoT devices. The project demo, all the IoT devices were made by the robotics students. custom made, so that was awesome. As you can see, the UAT's primary segmented network at the bottom left there, leading to the primary front-facing router, with the switch delegating internet access based off of the IP range from the primary front-facing router to personal computers or any computers that might be connected to the network, and then leading to the demilitarized zone per se of the IoT network, and that handled our primary server communicating with the IoT lights and items in the network. Here's an example I wrote out here just to kind of explain the idea. You can see the internet. You can see my house. There's my public IP address, 156.141.28249. Not actually my public IP address, but there's my primary router. It's receiving information from my public IP or the internet. And that cannot ping 192.168.2.1 or the IoT network items, or 2.73. And then that goes down the stream to the IP address assigned to the IoT router, the item, which is where it's sending all the information. And then from there, as far as the primary front-facing router is concerned, it's already handed off the information to the IoT network router. And that distributes the information to the IoT devices. So that allows for a more downstream flow, but without direct communication between the primary router and the IoT device network. And that allows for that situation there. The project provides an aspect of IoT that I have not found to date or implemented, providing a safe environment to small businesses and homes and IoT, and that's vital for the future. To the right, you can see a picture of the two routers participating in the demilitarization of the IoT portion of the network. And then the target market for the idea was residential or and smaller business entities. The idea leans more towards residential entities, as the residential market is less knowledgeable of the concerns about security involving IoT. The marketing for residential will be aimed more towards higher income households or people messing around with IoT devices. There's some prior art and Q&A, so I guess I'll hand it off to my in-person self, hopefully, and they'll take it away for the questions. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you, Andrew. Looks like there's two of you. All right, we have a question by Professor Galatas.
Awesome.
Hey, Andrew, nice work. I was really excited that you and Leandre went to take advantage of the equipment in the lab over there and roll up your sleeves and get your hand dirty. And you learned a lot about network segmentation as a component of the defensive layers of security. And that is going to be more and more and more relevant as IoT becomes more pervasive, because it is going to become more pervasive. So really cool project. Glad you were able to work on it and have that experience with it. I don't know how this would bundle up and scale. I'm always looking in the market for things that cost less than $1,000. I guess my questions to you are around what do you think this could go to market for as a price point? And then my second question is, do you want to sub on CCDC doing injects at any point this season?
Awesome. Two great questions. Thanks for the feedback. I would definitely say the market value or retail value would be definitely under $1,000. The goal was to provide a situation where we could provide network segmentation for around I think $400 was around the amount that was spent on this demo infrastructure. So that to market would be much lower than some other solutions. And then what can we clarify? What was that second question again?
Do you want to appear as an inject specialist on CCDC anytime this season?
So I'd love to help out where I can. I know this is my last semester. This semester is, So I'm not sure how all that works since I wouldn't be attending next semester.
I'm kind of messing with you.
Yeah, but I've reached out to Dawson and I'd love to help out.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Nice job.
Awesome, thanks, Mason.
No pressure, Andrew, no pressure.
No pressure.
Any other questions for Andrew? Okay, well done, Andrew. Thank you so much for walking us through that. I appreciate it.
Awesome, thank you guys.
Okay, so next up we have Brandon Van Dyke, who is a network engineering major.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Van Dyke. My now graduated partner is Marvin Hughley, and we're both network engineering majors. And our project for presentation today is called the BioWheel. Here's our innovation claim. As you can see, the BioWheel will be the first biometric operated steering wheel the market has ever seen. Utilizing a biometric scanner attached to the steering wheel, our customers will be provided the convenience of never having to worry about lost keys or auto theft. So, why the biometric steering wheel? Well, I'll tell you, we currently live in a society where we want to access things quickly with minimal effort. Currently, we have to push to start technology and remote access features, which have been an upgrade from the old key, but nothing has really been coined for a vehicle to actually start with the use of biometrics quite like this. Our service will affect the technology world in terms of creating options to starting one's car faster and proceeding with their day while also providing peace of mind that their vehicle cannot be stolen. This will also be effective for consumers to have less items to be responsible for, such as their keys and key fobs, since these will not be necessary with our biometric authentication. Here's our project description and contributions. I'll provide an example of its use. So we got a guy named Max. He's driving a 2028 Toyota Corolla. He enters the car, places his hands on the wheel, then Max will put his foot on the gas and the car will turn on. If somebody other than Max enters the car and attempts to start the car after 3 failed attempts, the car and engine will lock. My partner and I have split the contribution equally. We both paid for the materials and we both worked on the programming needed and assembled the parts together for BioWheel. Here's a picture of our prototype module and our code. The code is created within Arduino IDE and is basically just instructions on how to read and process user authentication, telling the module to either report failure or engage the mock engine that we have hooked up. Here's a little demonstration of my assigning my fingerprint to the module and starting the engine.
Hello, my name is Brandon Van Dyke, and today I'd like to show you how our project BioWheel works. Direct you over here. So first things first, we got a screen here that says press enter to start, or press the second option to enroll the customer. So we're going to go for the enrollment process first, and the end system is probably going to be a little bit more advanced than this, have some kind of personal assistant tell you what to do. So in the end system, they would likely tell you place your hands on the steering wheel for first time user authentication, but for the purposes of this prototype, we're just going to press enter to register our fingerprint. Light's going to light up. I'm going to put my index finger on here. It says image taken. It says place it there one more time to authenticate. It says the print's matched. So now that we have authenticated ourselves, we'll go back and we'll go down to start. And put my finger on here to authenticate. And then we can hear and see the vehicle is started. Once I've driven around, gotten everything done that I need to do, and I'm done, I'm just going to place the same finger on there again, engine stops. And say whenever I leave my car, someone decides that they want to steal it, or try to at least. They break into the window however they want to get in and try to get on the steering wheel to start it. they put their foreign finger, which is going to be my thumb for this demonstration, and it's loud beeps that says user not authorized. They do that 3 times, they get locked out, and it doesn't work out for them. So yeah, that's what we got so far. Hope you like it.
Mic on.
All right, well, that's my presentation. I hope you all enjoyed, and I am now open for questions.
Thank you very much, Brandon. That's very cool. Professor Mason Galatas?
Yeah, nice work, Brandon. This is another one of those, I'm like a broken record. I'm always saying, let's see the prototype. Where's the prototype? It took a little while for Marvin and Brandon to actually acquire the components for the prototype. But as they got their pieces and the motor actually turning over and starting is something new to me. So they just kept progressing it and progressing it. So I think this is a really fantastic project and great live demo. For me, I always think of this as a multi-factor or a second factor. So it's, something you are and then something you have, like a fob as well. But super cool idea. What do you plan to do now? I mean, do you plan on trying to take this somewhere and pitch it to anyone in the marketplace, or hand it off to future UAT generations? What are you thinking?
I mean, right now I got a pretty snazzy internship set up, but so I'm gonna focus on that for a good while. But it maybe could revisit it at some point. I'm proud of the idea that him and I came up with, and if we could possibly turn a profit from it if we ever decided to push forward with it.
All right, very cool. Yeah, I was always trying to get you to implement it with an actual ECU from an automobile and all of that, which would have been far too complicated and way too great a scope. So I'm glad you went the way you did and didn't take my advice. So nice job.
It was a very good idea, and honestly, if time permitted, we probably could have implemented a few more things. But I do appreciate the idea.
Yep. Thank you, sir.
Professor Prater?
It's a great project. I love it. My question for you is, we're going to biometrics, but what if your biometrics are corrupted? Well, what if someone else gets your biometrics? You can't change your key because it's you. You're stuck with it, and that's one of the concerns with biometrics, is that you're stuck with what you have, and if someone else gets it, then they've got it and you can't change it. So how do you proceed, or how do you try to limit that concern of once your biometrics are obtained, then you can't change it?
That is a good question. We have considered that before. With phones and stuff, with the biometrics that they're set up with, there's always some kind of backup, like you can put in your PIN instead. So maybe if your biometrics on your hands are compromised for some reason or not working, we could have a backup, like voice authentication or iris authentication is actually, I've heard that's actually the most solid authentication method for biometrics. Obviously, I don't have access to creating an iris scanner right now, but it is a fun thought that we played around with.
Okay. Any other questions for Brandon? Brandon, there's a comment in the chat feature by Dr. Bowman that at the last couple of CES shows, incorporating biometrics into vehicle steering wheels was a thing that the car manufacturers are talking about. So that's something to consider. And also, Brandon, I have a quick question. Does this affect at all if somebody puts a kill switch in their vehicle?
How do you mean?
Well, like my dad, he's a mechanical engineer, and he puts in kill switches on all his vehicles. So even if you have like the keys, you can't start the car, and he hides the kill switch in the engine, and he never tells anybody. So I'm just curious if you knew about that, if that would work with people that put in kill switches in their cars.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm hearing of it. That's a very interesting point. I suppose that's something that would need to be worked out in the kinks at a later point. There's lots of potential questions with this, and with what Dr. Bowman said, when I was doing the prior art research on this, I was really intrigued to see that there is similar things that are on the market right now. Like there's one that measures your biometrics to see if you're healthy as you're driving. But I was really shocked to see in this late in the game that there isn't like an exact system like this already.
Yeah, so you can see that there's a lot of potential with this. So well done, Brandon.
Hey, appreciate it.
All right, so we are now moving forward to the last presentation of the entire SIP showcase. So thank you in advance for hanging in there. We have now a team of Brian Block, who is a game design major, Samir Jawa, who's network security, and Tiana Vincent, who's also network security.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Block, and I'm here with Tiana Vincent and Sam Jawa. Today, we're going to be presenting our SIP project, Cybersecurity Simulator. What is Cybersecurity Simulator? Well, we understand that the inability to recognize phishing attempts in the workplace is a leading security concern. This is especially common in police precincts, schools, nursing offices, but unfortunately, a lot of these places don't really have a choice in what they can upgrade to. So, this project is supposed to show these people that work in these kinds of places what to do and what not to do in preparing for their job in cybersecurity. We designed this in conjunction with our majors in game art / game design and network security.
Hello everyone, my name is Samir Jawa and I'm a network security major. My innovation claim is to create a user experience that simulates the early stages of a cyber attack to educate users about fraudulent and phishing scams through the use of interactive 2D graphics and UI. I'll now turn it over to Tiana.
My name is Tiana Vincent, and my innovation claim is to gamify the educational process using built-from-scratch phishing email templates and curriculum to educate the player on key indicators of compromise.
My name is Brian Block. You already probably knew that, but my innovation claim is to change the game design based on the player's input and skill. So here's our prior art. So Cyberbit, it prepares your security team for an attack by providing a hyper-realistic virtual SOC environment in which they can train and respond to the real-world simulated cyber attacks and dramatically improve their performance. Purplefish test employees' susceptibility to today's threat by launching simulated phishing attacks. Users will experience firsthand how phishing attacks works and learn how to identify them in the future. No B for you. I hope I pronounced that right. There is a Q in it. Provides a cloud-based security awareness, training, and simulated phishing platforms to manage problems of social engineering. So that's all we have for our PowerPoint. Next, I'm going to bring up our simulator, and I'm going to hand the floor over to Tiana. Hold on. Keep in mind the game has audio, but we've disabled it for the sake of this presentation.
So the game starts off by explaining to the user what phishing is, and we tell the user what the primary goal and intent of phishing is, so that way they're familiar with the concept before we start the game. The next slide shows the user 6 key indicators of compromise, so that way they know exactly where to look when we present them with an email template, so they know whether or not it's phishing. Lastly, we tell the user about spam. The reason we have an entire slide about spam is because phishing and spam are different, and we want to make sure that the player is able to distinguish them easily when they're playing the game. Next. Yes, so the game does start off with giving the user 2 different choices. It does start off relatively easy. The primary goal for this minigame is to allow the player to select the phishing email, and once they choose the correct email that is phishing, they will gain points.
This can be seen over right here. the player is also counted on their time as well. If the player chooses the wrong one, so if the player gets too many wrong, it will then say fished. The floor is going to be handed back to me, and I'm going to present my part. And then last, we're going to have Sam Jawa present his part. My innovation claim, the gameplay changes depending on how well the player is doing. If the game detects the player is doing well in skill and so on, it will transfer over to this. So it will transfer over to a completely new gameplay style. The player kind of, in this scenario, got hacked, and they're going to have to put in commands and attack the attacker. So they open up this email, they got attacked. They're then going to have to put in commands and press enter. Here they put in the command com. Up here when I press enter, you can see that that returns true, meaning that the command worked, and so on. If I put any other command right now, it does not work. But eventually it will turn that off, and you have attacked the attacker, and it will go back to the regular game. I'm going to pass the simulator off to Sam Jawa.
So as for my contribution for this project, I've decided to include Eternal Blue exploit, and this is an exploit that exploits a software vulnerability in Microsoft's Windows operating systems server message block protocol SMB1, and it uses a network file sharing protocol that allows access to files on a remote server. And what this can let an attacker do is let the attacker have the power to view, change, and delete data and create new accounts with full administrator rights. So Eternal Blue is one of the common exploits that attackers can take advantage of by delivering it through phishing emails. So my contribution to this project was that I created some 2D artwork for CyberKnight, and I also created some video assets that demonstrates how real-world cyber attack works. So now I'm going to show you what occurs when a user fails at recognizing emails. So this is an email that's automatically sent by Microsoft Teams to give the user a notification via email. In this email, Bob has sent a PDF file to the user, and to view the file, the player has to open up Teams application. So due to the user clicking on this attachment, what happened is it enabled the SMB1 and SMB2 for file sharing automatically on the victim's Windows 7 machine. And the email is suspicious because the headers aren't where they're supposed to be. It's in the middle, where it says 2020 Microsoft Corporation and read our privacy policy should be on the bottom of the email with a copyright symbol after corporation. And the other thing that's missing, it's kind of obvious, like, is the One Microsoft Way, which is part of the address of Microsoft headquarters. And now we're going to be transitioning to the attacker's view, and this happened the minute the Teams button was clicked on, and activated SMB1 and SMB2 vulnerabilities. And over here, the attacker uses a tool called Nmap to perform the network discovery and to scan the entire network range to see what ports are open on the network. And the attacker is also able to find open ports and found the target's IP address with the open port 445 SMB, which is for Microsoft ES right there. And I've showcased that. I'm highlighting all this. And here is where the attacker searches for the Eternal Blue module by searching ms17_010. And these set of modules can let the attacker go forward with further exploitation and cause more damage to the Windows 7 machine. Then the attacker does a show options command where the attacker is able to go through and specify the parameter that they want to pass in. And the attacker then can specify the IP address with the set rhost command of the victim's machine. Then the attacker can look at the show payloads and look at all the modules of which they want to pass in to further attack the system and be able to gain entry via reverse shell. So the attacker chooses the Windows/x64 and sets the payload over here. And then lastly, exploit. And here is where the attacker is able to gain reverse shell, and it's a win for the attacker. And then with the get UID command, this returns the output showing the user, and the sysinfo is information about the system and like about how the operating system is and like what architecture. And this is the command where this is where the attacker is trying to locate the desktop path and was able to locate the very sensitive file that was saved on the desktop, which was called database backup.txt. And over here, as you can see, this led to reveal 5 people's personal information. And so it's simple. To prevent this attack, don't open attachments that are unknown, and if the email appears to be suspicious as well. So the purpose of this, showcasing this demonstration of Eternal Blue, is to promote security awareness so that others will be educated on this matter, and it'll keep passing on to other people as well. So what this will do is will eliminate them from being at risk as long as they can immediately recognize emails and the email type. And that's all for my part. Thank you so much for tuning in.
So, does anyone have any questions?
Okay, we have Professor Prater.
Yes, this is fantastic. Well, when I was at American Express, that they were obviously phishing was of their a high priority item. They would actually intentionally try to phish the employees. In 9 months, I had 5 phishing attempts on me, and they have a report phishing button, so you can click it and they say, "Hey, good job, you discovered this phishing attempt." And if you get 2 attempts, if you fail twice, you're gone. You're fired. So you can fail it once, but if you fail twice, you're gone. So it's a huge deal. At least American Express, they were very big on it. In addition to American Express, you couldn't list American Express as your employer on social media. You were not allowed to do that, or you'd get in trouble as well. So this idea of training for phishing and for social media and things like that is definitely a huge area. So my question is, have you thought about providing this as a service to the local contacts, the small businesses that don't have the capability, but could definitely use this training? Has anyone done some outreach for that?
We haven't done any outreach yet, but our plan is to further develop the product and then release it to police precincts or local community members, small businesses. Our main target is those kind of things where they obviously are very vulnerable to servers that probably are running older versions of Windows or Linux.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the big thing is to get it out and get some feedback. Don't hold on to it yourself, but rather get it out there and have them tell you what they need. And they'll make it so much better for you, and then you could turn this into a money-making operation.
Yeah.
Samir and Tiana, would you like to add anything to what Brian answered?
Yeah, I think the goal is kind of what Brian said, is to just keep educating users on like the simple things about phishing and like how it happens and how to protect against it, and just being able to grasp the basic things that they need to know, and in order to like prevent themselves from being hit with those kinds of attacks. Because a phishing attack could just jump from like a spear phishing attack, and then it could just lead to like malware spraying all over the systems. And it could also be hidden, and it could be hard for them to like discover like what's happening in the background of their systems. But there's people out there that are not really like that computer literate, and they won't even notice like what's going on when they like monitor and look at do like a system checkup, but they won't even catch it sometimes like through this like filter, and it'll just go straight to their inbox. But that's where I feel like people should be able to realize like how serious this is, and be able to maintain other security, and being able to just keep it at top, and prevent like from data from being lost.
Thank you, Samir, for adding that. We have a question by Professor Marquardt.
Yeah.
Mark,
so
what's up?
Oh boy. So every single project has its ups and downs, clearly, right? And we see this with all the different SIPs. I know you guys had a little rough patch, but I'll be honest with you guys, in the very short period of time towards the end, you guys really pulled it together and were able to present something good. So what I want to hear from each of you is, what exactly did you do personally to overcome your challenges towards the end?
Sam, you want to go first, and then Tiana, I'll go last.
Yeah, so my challenge was I was just taking it really lightly at first, and I wasn't like really sure of like where to go with it. But until like Mason brought me some ideas and he told me about the blue thing and other common exploits that I could look into, and I really thank you for that, Mason. I know I considered it at like the second halfway of the semester, but I think that that was a really good idea, and just being able to do that and being able to accomplish it and going with the procedure and executing everything was kind of just the way I was trying to go with it. And that was at first like figuring out like that was the challenge. Like, what am I going to do? Like, am I just going to make this like plain and simple, just with like phishing emails, or but adding some sort of action going on within the email was definitely something worth showcasing. Does that kind of answer your question, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tiana, are you on the call? I don't see her.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh yeah.
I suppose the most helpful part of this was just getting the feedback from all the SMEs. I met with basically all the SMEs that were applicable to these majors, and I got feedback from each of them, and that helped me, as Sam said, take it more seriously and just get varying perspectives on how to improve the project. So that was helpful for me.
A lot of my contributions had challenges. So one of the biggest challenges I faced was, one, I had experience with Unreal programming. I had a lot of experience with Unreal programming, but what I figured out was that I was kind of teaching myself the wrong way. Because I was using casting nodes and everything. Don't do that. Because when you use casting nodes, it loads everything in Unreal Engine from that cast into memory, which isn't optimized. So I eventually started looking into other ways to do this. I looked on forums, and someone told me you have to use blueprint interfaces. Those things are good. So I began researching them, and that was a challenge because I wasn't used to how to work with those. Another challenge I had was that I had to translate the cybersecurity command line and all the tools and the commands and everything over to an Unreal Engine game, which was not hard for me to do, but it was hard to understand the difference between cybersecurity and game design. And that's kind of where a few issues arose, but we eventually got together and solved that. Another challenge I had was that I actually did I think I did almost everything in Engine. And so I had to come up with a way to make it look pretty within the time frame we had, which would have been 4 or 5 weeks. So I brought them together, or well, we all got together technically, and we were like, so we're gonna assign each other some tasks, and so we looked at each other's skills, what each other was good at, what each other wasn't good at, and I figured out that Sam was good at doing art, and he needed a little bit of help, but he was good. Tiana was good at doing art. She had some experience in graphic design, so I had them do the emails, and they would send them to me through our drive, and then I put them into the game and program everything in, and we worked together very well that way. If that answers your question, Marquette.
Yeah, no, good job. Like I said, I think you guys had a pretty rough patch really towards the end, and I have not seen this much progress in such a short period of time before. So you guys really, really pulled it together. So good job.
We have a question by Professor Mason Galatas.
Professor Prater and Professor Marquette basically asked the questions. I'm really proud of you all pulling together at the end to echo Matt's comments. And I think there's a real need in the small and medium business space, like Professor Prater mentioned, to train employees. We see it at the enterprise level, the large banks and creditors, where you probably have consultants come in and look for pretext. So things in accounts billable or accounts receivable that they're dealing with to make the phishing emails look more authentic. And to Samir's diagram of what was happening with Eternal Blue, that's ransomware. So that's what's affecting our public schools, our health institutions. So that sort of thing is crippling to an institution. So I see a massive opportunity for consulting, and you have these this experience with this now, and I'm sure you've learned a lot in terms of team building and how to work together and what to do, and maybe some things what not to do. So nice work, and I'm happy it all came together.
I'm afraid Markwood's going to ask the question, but Markwood, do you want to know how it came together?
I mean, it sounds like you want to tell that story, so tell the story real quick.
So originally Cybersecurity Simulator was going to be a VR teaching game. And so I had just gotten a job at the time we started doing this, or well, I had the job before, but I kind of came back to it from high school, and which is weird because now I actually manage the job. So they gave me a lot more hours, but so what happened was I got my first paycheck in like a long time, and I'm like, okay, so we need to buy a server for this because we need Unreal to run on the server. So we went out and bought an R710 from some random guy on eBay. And then we went to go do the SIP project, and they wouldn't approve it. They're like, Markwood was like, yeah, I think it's too generic. You're going to need to figure out something else. So we thought of the idea of a game that was Cybersecurity Simulator, because me and Sam were in my dorm room one night, and we're just looking at it. We're like, we paid like $120 for the server and firewall. What are we going to do with it? And the firewall doesn't even work. So what are we going to do with this thing? And I suggested, well, we can do something with cybersecurity. And he's like, yeah, that sounds good to me. And so we kind of started.
Yeah, I'm the one that came up to you and brought the idea, and then we just kept going with it.
Yeah, so we kind of kept going with it until we came to this point. So I'm proud of everyone who was involved.
And we'll continue to work on it. We'll implement more scenarios, and we'll teach people like different like stuff that they need to know about, the basics, and then as difficulty increases, then we'll add more like attack vectors and other things that you can build upon. I think that'll be good.
Well, thank you, Samir. Thank you, Tiana. Thank you, Brian, for your presentation. Thank you to everyone. This does conclude the virtual Fall 2020 SIP Showcase.